just mic'd up with Mikey Mahtook. Got the boys in. I got Lloyd. We got J Mitch. We got Jackie Boy.
He tried to jump up, but he might have knocked it in.
Good timing. Let's go. What a start to the Monday. I mean, I'm from Lafayette. My boys will come in and say,
oh, God. So me and Joe on the ground. I got Joe in the headlock. And he's sitting there. He's punching me in the stomach. Like, punching me.
Here, is everyone sitting around? Who here thinks Ochenko can practice today after having 5 full beers? And he goes, Chad Jones, right? Chad's doing 6 minutes. For 7 minutes, right? Chad's like, no, man, I don't think Ochenko can practice today. And I was like, I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I saw you there. You were more fucked up than me.
The spirit plane had some issues, I think. She was sleep farting.
you heard her or you just thought it was her?
I sat right next to her. I smelled it.
Whoa. What was that?
Time
Good show.
Now, when you do go to spring training, are you going to bring your chinchilla and your turtle? My dad tell you about it?
The SEC is God, they hate fat people. I mean, I get crushed for that. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
Hey, just the South, bro. You got a bunch of food down here. Like they should all
Players. Look at Lloyd.
You know what, Lloyd?
You're looking for a recruiting coordinator, coach. I'm here.
He's like, I'll piss my pants right now.
No way.
We're wearing gray pants, long gray pants. He goes, I'll piss my pants right now.
Hello. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. Today is Monday, December 9th. Hope everybody had a beautiful, wonderful weekend. I had a great time in New York. How was your weekend, Lloyd?
Great job in New York City. Just missed you there.
Hey, the reason
City that never
the
sleeps.
killer was found.
Yeah.
Why? The bounty went up to $60,000. I was searching all weekend. It's no coincidence by the time I get home, they find him. No coincidence.
You know, yeah, because you go to the finest dining establishments in New York City, McDonald's.
They pay you in cash, or are they?
Well,
Monopoly bucks.
This was in Pennsylvania that they found him, you know. But I saw the tracks before, and I was able to lead them to Pennsylvania. I was the one. You can thank me.
Get out of town.
Yeah. Now there's some skepticism about the capture and how it happened. Wild rabbit hole to go down if you are into that kind of thing.
It's that time of year.
Lloyd came in here locked and loaded, ready to go at this conversation. But
Not the document you wanted.
outside of that, we had a great weekend. It was very chilly up there. We had a lot of really good restaurants. Thank God. You have to walk a lot in New York because I ate a ton of food and
Coach, what was the weather like?
it was cold, but like it wasn't unbearable. You know what I mean? Like you could walk around. As long as you had the proper attire, like it
Peacoat?
wasn't no peacoat. I just had some jackets, some big sweaters.
Oh, is
Yeah.
your book sack?
Yeah, huh?
Book sack?
No book sack.
Oh.
No backpack walking around.
Monopoly money.
Yeah, or Monopoly money.
Got the
We
profile.
did walk through. Listen, we did walk through Central Park. We did walk through Central Park.
Oh, you found the backpack.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? And they had some
Oh.
clues in the backpack.
The one with the right color straps or the wrong color?
Yeah, well, these had the
It's
right
the first
color straps.
backpack.
But that's a reason, you know. He said he obviously had to switch out of the backpack to a new backpack because he left that one there with the Monopoly money. And of course, I was the only person in Central Park. There wasn't a lot of other people there that could have found it. It was just me.
Scavenger hunt.
Weather was good though. We walked around. We had a bunch of good stuff. But we're not here to talk about my trip. We're here to talk about sports. Final playoff bracket is released. Playoff matchups are out there. There's a lot of outrage on the Alabama side. A lot of happiness on the SMU side, and of course the Clemson side for obviously sneaking in there and knocking Alabama out of the playoff contention. We'll talk about if you agree or disagree. If you use your football eyes and you look at who's on the field, who do you think is better at football? I think Alabama, obviously you could say I think Alabama would beat SMU. But if you look at that mixed with what the committee and what they are actually looking at as far as the process goes, I'm not mad that SMU is in it. There's a lot of arguments both ways. But if you're gonna have some integrity with the process that you go through, I'm not upset that SMU is in the game. Now, if SMU would have gotten blown out by Clemson, who had 3 losses, obviously I think they would have been out. They kept the game close. It was a very entertaining game. I think that was more a result of 2 decent teams going at each other as opposed to 2 elite teams going at each other. And both those decent teams end up making it into the playoffs. We'll see how that pans out. As Jared said before the show, I hope it's not a TCU situation where clearly they should not have gotten in, but based off of the integrity of the process, they get in and they get their doors blown off. So we'll see. First playoff games are the 21st, I believe, which should be exciting. Looking forward to it. LSU in the Texas Bowl, not the toilet bowl, the Texas Bowl in NRG Stadium against Baylor. Baylor, if you haven't been paying attention, they are on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, or 6 game
Same
winning
record,
streak.
8-4.
6 game winning streak, same record as LSU. Obviously, Dave Aranda coaching his old team.
They're 2-4, and he was about to get fired.
Yep,
and then he rattled off
and the
6
last
straight.
loss was against Iowa State. They're on a 6 game winning streak. Good for Dave Aranda and those guys to kind of right the ship. It's going to be interesting to see what that game looks like and how many guys are going to go out there. Listen, a lot of young guys are still on the team that are going to come back and have big roles for next year. How are they going to respond? How are they going to play? It's an opportunity for them to go and get his leg up for going into the offseason. But with that said, obviously recruiting early signing day happened last week. Transfer portal is officially open today. You wouldn't know that based off of all the announcements. You have people releasing top 3s and before the portal is even officially open. So that's an interesting thing, but it officially opens today so people can actually decide on where they're going. LSU obviously is going to be very active in the portal, is what has been documented and what has been said by Brian Kelly. How aggressive, who they're going to go after remains to be seen, but there are a lot of talented players in the portal that I think would help LSU immediately. Bryce Coon, friend of the show, on the show probably right now. I don't know if he's in there yet, but around the 6:10 time, he's going to have a lot of the details on the recruiting side, on the transfer portal side, on the college football playoff. We're going to get here. We have him for a solid 20 minutes. I'm saying that out loud to hold us accountable because you know how we kind of get a little carried away in
That's
the
all
questioning.
Lloyd at the end
Yeah,
of this.
so,
One more.
Yeah. So 20 minutes, we get them. We can ask as many questions as we can. We can even maybe throw in the Juan Soto deal. Juan Soto signs a 15-year, $785 million deal. That deal can be up to about $804 million when it's all said and done. That's a lot. That's almost a billionaire. Based off your time playing Major League Baseball. Wild.
Not your time.
No,
a
just
portion
15
of
years.
it. A portion of it.
The first 6 years.
He's already got 6 in, and I think just a portion of it.
So which means and honestly,
He's already got 6 in the league, not 6 in professional ball.
And 3 years of that arbitration, he probably made close to $50-60 million in those 3 years. Because I think he made like 30 his last year, something like that. He's already made a lot of money. Now he's
Don't forget, 2 years ago, too, I believe it was maybe 2 seasons ago.
15-year, $485 million
Turned down
deal.
485. I think he turned out all right.
Yeah, worked out. Worked
He
out.
did okay.
Yeah, good for him. Good for Juan Soto.
If
Good for the
y'all
New York
think
Mets.
he's 26 years old, I mean, what are we doing?
Good for the New York Mets.
They got fleeced again. Another Bobby Bonilla right down the pipeline.
No, this is no deferred money. No deferred money.
No.
The contract's
His
done.
contract's done. No deferred.
No deferred money.
Biggest signing bonus ever, I believe.
I
Signing
think
bonus.
so.
Biggest
there's
contract ever.
No, there's a signing
signing
bonus.
bonus.
Oh,
I
was
think it's
there?
like 65, 75 or something like that. That's a lot of money on one day.
That's fun.
It's a great walk to the mailbox.
Oh, my
Hey,
goodness.
Steve Cohen, owner of the Mets.
That's got to come in a couple installments, huh?
They're worth one check.
No.
One installment. Hits the bank account. Damn. January 1, I'm getting $70 million down there.
And you can shower me with whatever he got showered with last night, too, because
No
that's
doubt.
incredible.
Steve Cohen, owner of. I know where you're going there. Steve Cohen, the owner of
One
the
champagne,
Mets,
baby.
the owner of the Mets, worth $22 billion. That's a lot of money. And the $60 million, $70 million, whatever the signing bonus was, is
Dropping a bucket.
Yep, pennies to him. So, congratulations to Juan Soto. Congratulations to New York Mets.
Wonder if Steve Cohen likes
Sad
LSU
day for the
football.
Yankees.
Yeah, maybe we should recruit him to be
Sponsor.
a sponsor, or not a sponsor. Yeah, sponsor of the school.
Yeah.
You know, we need one of those. We need
Big-
somebody that's
big
worth a lot of
money.
Big money.
And sad day for the Yankees. The
Sad day-
fans are not happy.
No, listen.
Like he's Derek Jeter and left.
Well, listen. Here's the
Can't
deal.
be
It was either the Yankees or the Mets or the Red Sox. So, if it wasn't going to be the Yankees, the
Not
Yankees
the
were
Rays
gonna
were
be happy.
players.
Huh?
Thought the Rays were in there.
Yeah, they're there. He wants to play at the spring training facility at the Yankees spring training facility. That's where he wants to play next year. That would be good. They gave him that much money. That's how much he would basically own the Rays.
Yeah, he could.
Pretty much.
Bryce in there yet or no?
No, I texted him too.
Or the Pirates.
Oh, there he is.
Look, he's
There
in.
he is. There he is.
I didn't want to get caught in a tangent. Obviously, our time is limited with our friend Bryce. He's a very busy man, especially at this time
New
of
papa.
the year. New papa. Obviously, transfer portal is pumping right now. He has to go out there and do his real day job, which is covering all of college football and covering LSU. So hopefully we can give you some answers that we don't have, and we can ask some questions that makes our show more interesting. Is he ready? Are we ready? Bryce, welcome to the show, dude.
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
How are you doing?
Oh, just just another Monday, right?
Well, listen, not just another Monday. It's Portal Monday. It's the portal opens. You got a lot
I
of
think he's
people.
well aware.
Yeah, he's like, he's sitting there. He's like, you're right. I know. It's not a regular Monday.
Wait, what?
Hey, listen, I'm glad I could help you. I'm glad I could help you with your job. You know, I didn't know if you knew that, but there's a lot of guys in the portal, obviously, that LSU is probably interested in. A lot of guys that were at LSU that are currently in the portal, and a lot of question marks that they kind of have to fill. Let's jump right into it, and let's get into the portal conversation. What are you hearing as far as the early
Rumblings.
Yeah, early rumblings of who LSU is going after and who they look like they're going to get?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing that a lot of fans have kind of been paying attention to is there's an obvious need of wide receiver. I mean, you kind of look at what is not coming back, what is coming back. Obviously, C.J. Daniels goes in the portal. You're losing Kyron Lacey. You know, obviously we saw Shelton Sampson's name officially go in today as well. So I think when you just kind of look at that position, when you look at the experience, it's really, you know, Aaron Anderson and, you know, Xavion Thomas to an extent. I mean, they kind of fell off how they utilized him towards the end of the year. You're going to be losing Mason Taylor, so you're going to really see Tradez, or Kamorian Pimpton have to take a bigger role. So there's not a lot of proven, I guess, pass-catching options. And then I also throw Kyle Parker in that too because, he was playing pretty well and then got hurt, early in the season. So the first thing I would say is just the wide receiver position in general. I mean, you're hearing, and I love this time of the year because it's everyone who enters the portal, every single name enters, is put on the message board, and we are posed the question of, does LSU have a chance? Is LSU reaching out? And it's that time of the year. And
that's why I'm asking you. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, so I would say wide receiver is the biggest push right now for LSU, just in terms of wanting to fill that. And we're seeing some big names, enter the portal. Obviously, Micah Hudson from Texas Tech is a guy that a lot of people have really kind of looked at. He's setting up an LSU visit from what we're told. A guy that I'm continuing to look at, though, is the Barian Brown out of Kentucky. Real super speedster dude. Another guy that I think kind of fits the mold of what Aaron Anderson and Xavier Thomas, were when LSU went to go get those guys over the past 2 seasons. So it does kind of fit the mold of that speedster you could put in the slot. But Micah Hudson's a guy, and then you kind of look around at where else they could go. Today, Eric Singleton Jr. from Georgia Tech entered the portal. That's a guy who is, had a 1,000-yard season as a freshman, 750 yards this past year. He's another guy that can play inside and outside. 4.3, 4.2 type of speed. I mean, that guy can fly. So you're looking at, LSU's kind of, making contact in such a weird time, not with his players specifically, but the agents of these players, of kind of feeling out where they're at in the process. So I'd say receiver is kind of the biggest thing they're looking at, and then the trickle down. Like, the Northwestern offensive linemen, they obviously are going to come on campus for a visit. They'll need to beef up the offensive line. So it kind of feels like right now it's really receiver because some top-end talent is already in the portal. And then, you look towards the offensive line. Those are kind of the two where the biggest needs, in my opinion. And they're obviously going to have to, you'd love for them to find a defensive lineman. The rush edge out of, I think it was Nebraska that named his top 3 today, and LSU was a member of that. Wasn't highly productive in his college career, but I think offers some upside. But when you look at that and what Kevin Peoples was able to do with Savion Jones and, Braden Swinson just 1 year, there's potential there. So I think those positions, as it fills out more in the portal in terms of more names entering, you're going to see that. It just kind of feels like receiver's kind of the hot hand right now because a lot of those guys, and how this, from what I've just experienced so far in the portal, is a lot of the receivers, like especially those big names, they're going to want to probably commit pretty soon and early. And why is that? Well, they have to really start building a rapport with whoever is in terms of the playbook, in terms of that. And I think it's one thing C.J. Daniels, I don't want to say he struggled with at times, but he even told us in the spring ball, like, he was still trying to get the playbook down and what Joe Sloan wanted to do. So, I think the receivers, you're seeing them enter the portal early. You're seeing the interest. You're seeing so-and-so set up a visit elsewhere. I feel like that's kind of where LSU's starting to hit the hardest here early on.
I don't want to get too far off the receiver spot, but I think when you put together a roster and you're putting together a receiving core, you're also looking for versatility and people that can do different things instead of people that do a lot of the same stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, speed is never a bad thing to have. You always want to have some speed, but if you're telling me guys that are coming in with the likes of Xavier Thomas, with the likes of Aaron Anderson and what they do, and there's guys in the portal that do a lot of those similar things. When you leave, when guys like C.J. Daniels goes into the portal, when guys like Kyron Lacey leaves, when guys like Mason Taylor leaves, who's the third down guy? Who's the guy they're going to be able to rely on to move the chains? Is there anybody in the portal that kind of fits that mold that would fit into this offense as well?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned right there, that's, I think, where they wanted C.J. Daniels to be a part of the puzzle because he was a really, and I think we talked about this last time I was on y'all's show, was he's just, it wasn't flashy this year, but it felt consistent when he got the ball. So when you look at receiver, like I've got the 24/7 rankings right here. Casey Concepcion is a guy that I think that, they're going to look at. He's setting up a visit at Texas A&M. He's a guy, but he's 5'11", 189. LSU needs that big body, that big target, right? The top 2 guys on the board are Kentucky receiver Dane Key, 6'3", 210. And then Nick Anderson, who was a guy that seemingly in the betting world was always talked about because he barely played this year at Oklahoma and affect how you wanted to bet on Oklahoma this season. He's 6'4", 216. His freshman year was very impressive in Norman. So I think when you look at outside guys, and I'll throw Micah Hudson because Hudson has speed and deep down the field threat. He is around 6'1", 195 to 200. So he does have that bigger frame that I think you're talking about to give you some diversity in that room. So, those 3 guys, like I think if I'm LSU, I wouldn't mind adding, because you do need some playable depth. I wouldn't mind adding another kind of Swiss Army knife guy, but I think that you have to go get an outside guy that, like you said, can be the third down threat. So, will LSU try to talk to Nick Anderson? I think there are initial conversations to kind of see where things are at in terms of NIL, in terms of different things. What is he asking for? What's he looking for? Because there's obvious snaps to be had in Baton Rouge, which I think can put LSU in an enviable situation compared to maybe some other power programs, because it's a program where, all intents and purposes, we believe Garrett Nussmeier is going to return, so you have some continuity there. It's a plug-and-play opportunity. Hey, if you can come in and you can give us, 65, 70 catches, something like that, and you can get an 1,000-yard season here. And there's not going to be the learning curve's on you. It's not on the rest of the offense in terms of what they want to do. So Nick Anderson's a guy that I think they're going to look at. Like I said, 6'4", 215 to 220. He's that big body. Played at Oklahoma, was hurt a little bit this year, but had a freshman season that was super impressive 2 years ago. But I do agree with you, Jared. I mean, I like some of the options I listed out. Speed guys that can, create separation like that you can really get involved, not just vertical, but you can get them involved, sideline to sideline. But it feels like that's what you have. And it would be a little bit redundant to go in the portal and get two guys that fit the same mold, because then you're looking at a receiving core that, you might not have a guy over 5'11", but you've got speed for days, which it doesn't work in this conference and in situations like you mentioned on third down.
Staying in the portal and kind of flipping gears, right? To the
real quick before you get into it. Sorry, I was the Heisman odds just like the Heisman finals just came out.
2,500 for Travis Hunter.
Yeah, if you want that. When you talk about the wide receiver room, do you think there's any chance at all that LSU is actually a player in that game as well, where they can, like, he goes in there, sees what the offers are, kind of akin to what Sage Ryan did last year, where he goes into the portal, but there's a chance you can come get him back?
You're talking about C.J. Daniels specifically?
Yes.
So I've talked with people about Daniels, and I mean, obviously, when you come off a season like he did 2 years ago, 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns, you're looking to cash in, but also elevate your play to get the NFL. And he battled injuries, and I think Brian Kelly was a little more open about that. Obviously, one of the last couple pressers that we had in the regular season. Yeah, he's like, "What HIPAA violation? Can't say that." But in all seriousness, like, when you kind of look at just what Daniels brings to the table, I think there's a lot of, of characteristics you'd like about him. I mean, everything Jared just says he can provide, especially when he's healthy. But there's kind of this thought process that, Caden Salter hit the portal.
That's what I was going to ask.
And that was his quarterback. And I could just see both of those guys lining up somewhere. Salter was setting up visits with, I believe, Syracuse, because when Kyle McCord's gone, Syracuse, and then Colorado was another place he was setting up a visit at. So when Daniels wanted to follow his guy, Auburn's probably going to be a player for Salter as well. They were last year. Salter would be playing at Auburn last year had it not been for Auburn doesn't have a sports administration program, which is crazy. That's why they can't get people in. So
that's crazy.
Crazy. That's nuts. But so I could see Daniels moving to maybe want to use that last year to just give himself some certainty about, how I'm going to be utilized. I'm comfortable to try to capitalize and make it to the NFL. Because he has the traits of an NFL guy, where he could get on a 53-man roster, he could get on a practice squad at the very least and maybe work himself up. So the possibility is always there. And there's probably some conversations with his representation about that. But I do think he's waiting to kind of see, and he's obviously probably having conversations with Caden about where we're going to link up somewhere, whether it be Syracuse, Colorado, Auburn, or somewhere else.
So, okay, going back to the other side of the football, right? Obviously, receivers is number one priority. They're probably going to try to go get a couple guys to be able to go and add to that wide receiver room with the guys they have returning. Another question mark going into the year was the secondary, right? They're obviously, I'd imagine, going to try to get an experienced safety to go out and replace a couple guys that they have leaving this year. But the cornerback position specifically, right? You have Ashton Stamps obviously coming back. Zai Alexander was the guy, right, for a while, and he played really well throughout the course of this year. But you're going to have to fill that role. You have some really good recruits coming in. Obviously, DJ Pickett's probably going to be plug-and-play guy at one of the cornerback spots. Do you believe that they go out? Do you think the guy from Florida, the kid from Florida who put his name in the portal, is going to follow Corey Raymond here to LSU?
If I had to put money on it, I would say yes.
Yes.
I think Jakeem Jackson will end up at LSU. I think that it doesn't hurt, right? I mean, a lot of fans, and especially like on our board, I don't know what the consensus elsewhere has been, but it's like it's damaged goods type of thing, and I hate that because we're talking about a kid who is uber talented coming in out of high school, has battled some injuries. But there's familiarity with him and Corey Raymond, and he's got length, and he has what Corey Raymond likes in terms of the cornerback position. So, look, I think Jakeem Jackson is a guy that will probably end up in Baton Rouge. And what does that give you at the very least? At very least, it gives you a safety net for DJ Pickett to learn. I have no problem with DJ Pickett being slotted in, whether you want to say cornerback 1 or cornerback 2, for 2025. But when you suit up against Clemson next fall, I think that you have to have some type of legitimate safety valve. It can't just be a bunch of freshmen that have never really played.
Right.
Or, and even what we saw this year, it can't be a bunch of guys that were just wanting to come home. I mean, J.K. Johnson, all of these other guys. So I just think that you kind of sit in a situation where if you can find a veteran who's willing to, it doesn't need to be promised a starting spot, because if Pickett's as advertised, he's your dude. I mean, if that's what that is. But maybe he challenges Ashton Stamps. I think that's good. Bring in some serious competition for Stamps. I like Stamps. But I think that you could always get better and improve at the position. So Jakeem Jackson, to me, yes. And I think they'll have to – you've got to play it right. Like, you can't promise a kid a starting spot, which a lot of these kids want nowadays. But you got to find a guy who's willing to go battle for it. And Corey Raymond has that built-in relationship with Jackson that's unique from him being at at Florida just 2 seasons ago. So I could see that happening. And like you said, I mean, if I had to put money on it right now, LSU would be the destination.
I mentioned safety, right? Jacoby Matthews was a guy that LSU wanted to get here, obviously from Ponchatoula. Went to A&M, felt like he kind of regretted that decision from the start, didn't really like it there, left, put his name in the portal, and sat out a year, right? We've had this conversation off air. I don't really know. Could you know where he was at? I know he had to be in school. Do you know where he was in school this year?
I don't know specifically. I mean,
Yale.
we had heard that he was like at a junior college just taking classes.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, everyone uses the excuse of like COVID to not know eligibility. I don't know what keeps you eligible. I'm not well versed on that. You guys might know more.
I don't know either.
In terms of like,
I feel like things have
what
changed.
you have to do
Yeah.
to stay
Especially after
eligible.
COVID. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. I really have no clue. I mean, look, Jacoby Matthews, that one's been surfacing on message boards since last year, right?
Right.
I mean, everyone's like, if he doesn't come to LSU, then something would have to terribly go wrong. And so, I would see Matthews ending up there. But to answer your question, just to keep it short, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are to stay eligible and how that affects. I mean, we see a lot of kids who are academically something, but then athletically they're a different, grade or year, however you want to call it. I don't know how that works, just straight up sitting out. I have no clue.
Yeah, me either. We've been talking about it. It's been a kind of an internal debate here. I don't really know what that answer is. But I know you're running out of time, so before you get out of here, before I let you go.
You're good. You're good. No
Okay.
worries. No, I was just making sure the phone was charging. I'm sorry.
No, but you said 6:30. I want to be respectful of your time. You know what I mean? So we're almost getting there. So I'm going to ask one more question. We can talk. It's not going to be the portal. It's not going to be LSU. Obviously, they're playing the bowl game. There's a lot more that we want to talk to you about this, which we can have you on as this transfer portal stuff starts to kind of figure itself out and people start taking visits and it kind of looks like it's starting to heat up. But I do want to get your take on the college football playoff, right? They obviously came out with the final rankings. They came out with the playoff bracket. Clemson them winning the ACC knocks Alabama out. I know Alabama fans are outraged because how can we not be in there? Look at what we've played in conference. All of those arguments are very valid, right? SMU hasn't played a tough schedule. They played Clemson tough, and that's why they both got in. It felt like it was two decent teams playing against each other as opposed to two elite teams playing against each other. But for the integrity of the process, I don't think that they got it wrong. I have no problem with putting SMU in based off of what you're looking at, right? And using a combination of, hey, what you've done this season and what we've seen on the field. What is your take on the playoff? And do you believe that some teams have a valid gripe?
So I watched the ACC championship game from the sidelines in Charlotte.
Oh, so you were there?
Saturday night.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there.
Wow.
I was there.
Boots on the
And,
ground. Okay.
Boots on the ground. No, yeah, and first off, awesome city. I know both.
Charlotte is amazing.
Charlotte's amazing.
Love Charlotte.
Where'd you go? Any
It's
cool
an
places?
awesome place.
Any cool spots?
Well, we went to this place. Oh gosh, my buddy's gonna kill me because we went to this. It's like a bar / restaurant after like 9 o'clock to turn more into a bar. It was a good time. Right there next to the Bank of America, which is also obviously right next to the baseball.
right downtown.
Truist Field.
Oh,
So-
is it a small? Is it like
what's it called?
Is it a small bar right across from the baseball field, like kind of cat corner from the baseball field?
Yes.
Is it
you
the
come
one?
Here, you
the
come
one
here
with
a lot.
You come here a lot.
That was the bar thing that he's talking about.
Is that the one with the black and white? I forget what it's called.
Sounds
It's
like
got
it's a good
little
time once you
outside
get in
seating
there.
Right there on the corner. Right.
Yeah.
right there on
It's
the
Vine
corner.
and is it Vine and something? I know what you're
It's
talking
right
about.
there on the corner, like you're like
Because
if
the corner
like,
of the bar looks at like that little park that's right there, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what
yes,
you're talking about.
yes.
I just forget the name
Copper,
of
not
it.
Copper and Vine.
No, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. I forget.
I know.
I'll literally text it to y'all right after this.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
will go look it up.
Anyway.
But, anyways, awesome city and SMU
Gervais
fans
and
showed out.
Vine.
It was a good time. What'd you say?
Gervais and Vine.
That's not it.
That's not it.
That's definitely not it.
I've never heard of that in my life. No, I'm just kidding. No, but in all seriousness, I was there Saturday night. 35 degrees as football should be. It was awesome weather, and just in terms of being cold and all that kind of stuff. But in all seriousness, being able to watch that game, like I left feeling SMU's a playoff team. Like
Okay, yeah.
I know that the strength of schedule is what it is, but to me, the committee rewarded wins here, right? Like, I felt like there could have been some more conversation about Indiana. We didn't really talk about that a lot, but we rewarded Indiana for the games that they won handedly, and they handed it to their opponents. And so, they showed that. And just in terms of Alabama, like, it's just one of those things, like, I keep seeing the argument about out-of-conference scheduling. A lot of people just took that and ran with it. Well, you lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
Right.
And I understand... Yep. I understand where you're going. It's with it. You're saying what they're trying to say is our strength of schedule is so hard in the SEC that we don't need to schedule out-of-conference games that matter. But and I'll say this: if they didn't lose to Oklahoma in what was that, the second to last week of the season?
Yeah.
If they don't lose that game, I strongly believe that the committee would have put them over SMU.
right.
Like I think they would have. Now, you just got to go win your games. And so, I'm happy. I'm excited to see it. I thought they got it right, to your point, Mikey. And it's going to create some interesting scenarios. I mean, now we'll say this. I don't love the seeding process. I think my take is I don't like the buys.
Me either.
I
think that's going to be gone. I think that's
going
to be gone in 2 years.
Yeah.
It has to stay one more year.
Because isn't it going to 16? Isn't it going to 16?
I don't know, but the
Yeah, 2
buys
years.
and everything
Not
that
guarantee,
is
right?
It's pretty much guaranteed.
everything that is right now has to stay at least one more year. I think that was like into the agreement
For their
originally.
contract, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I'm cool with the 12 teams in. Like, we'll get to see. And I'll say this too. Like, it's interesting because I think Oregon's the most balanced team in the country. They probably are going to have the hardest second round draw, which I don't love that. I think you should be rewarded for what you've done. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for the Clemson Texas game. I guess it's a rematch of Klubnik and Quinn Ewers, in their junior year for their high school state championship. Apparently, that's something that keeps going around. So it'll be a lot of fun. Like, we're all going to sit down and watch on December 20th and December 21st.
No doubt.
one's going to not turn it on.
Can't wait.
Everyone's going to, the betting industry is going to make some good money off of these games too. So it is what it is. And then kind of the final thing for it, a lot of people said, well, you're going to set a precedent. And I think they did. I think we saw a precedent set on Sunday when it was either go with, reward tough losses and look towards more of a strength of record and strength of schedule. That would have been picking Alabama. Or you're going to say conference championships really do matter.
Right.
And whether or not you really believe that Alabama would beat SMU head-to-head, I don't know. I think it would really depend on which version of Alabama showed up. But you have to understand that a lot of this is driven by money. And they have to show that the conference championships matter because that breaks in so much money for these media companies. Yeah. And if you would have said, if they'd have picked Alabama, Jared, you said they'd have to go at least one more year with the current format. I guarantee you there would have been programs and teams kicking and screaming to say, well, we're not playing this conference title game anymore. If you're going to punish us for going to it, we'll just opt out. We won't play it. So, because in all seriousness, SMU would have been better off if
Whole
not
team's
playing
sick.
the game altogether. Yeah, just not playing. So I don't know. I think they got it right. I'm excited to watch it. Alabama, just win your games.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
And last thing, not meaning to ramble here, but
Oh, love it.
the thing is I haven't been a person that stands on the table and says, look, I do believe the SEC is week in, week out the hardest conference to play in. Quality of player, quality of athlete, recruiting rankings, what they put out into the NFL, I think it is. I think there are data points that back that up. But you can't. You've got to find where's the cutoff. And to me, the committee said 3 losses. We can't do that over this. That we just can't do 3 regular season losses over 1 regular season loss. Do I think 2 SEC losses are maybe equal to 1 ACC loss? I do personally. That's just my take. I think the 3rd loss was what put the nail in the coffin there for Alabama.
Well, let me ask you this: conference games matters. What happens if, obviously, if Georgia would have lost that game, they would have had 3 losses. They would have been in regardless, right? They would have been a 3-loss SEC team in because conference championship matters. Let me ask you what happens if A&M doesn't fumble the ball and they go with 3 losses into the SEC championship game and they end up losing to Georgia, right? Let's say A&M would have beaten Texas. They had 3 losses. They go in there. They lose to Georgia with 4 losses. They're probably not in the playoff at that point, correct?
Yeah, because they'd be 9-4.
They'd be 9-4.
Yeah.
So, but
I think
that's a
that's
conference
where it
championship
would come down to
game.
more numbers.
Yeah, right.
You would have to really look at their strength of schedule and strength of record because, I think it played out the best way possible for SMU. You needed it to be Texas and Georgia, knowing what we know now, right? Like you needed that matchup to happen. Any other matchup, it starts to get really hairy because as much as it's crazy, I think there's a case to put A&M in because, like I said, if you're going to say conference championships matter over here, you got to say it over there. You got to keep it uniform.
Point.
So, yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't matter because they didn't do it. They lost to Texas and they didn't make it there, and whatever. So, but it was just it's a kind of curious what if. But you got anything else, Lloyd? Do you want to have a question? Anybody else have a question? You look at me like very inquisitive.
Yeah, no, I got something real because we talked about this, and look, I get it. You can't have teams sitting there with 4 or 5 losses and think that you should be in. But I subscribe more to the thought process of show me who you've beat as opposed to showing me who you've lost to. Right? Because when I think about it, when we start the season and every media outlet goes out there and they talk about teams that are playing, nobody looks at what was, thought to be the Vanderbilt game on the schedule as this is a big game. We need to know who this team is. This is a big game. We need to know who this team is. You circle the games that are big games. And then when a team goes out there and wins those games, they no longer have the weight because you got one more loss than another team. So to me, that part of it doesn't really make much sense. In a sense, and because if we talked about this before, I think there's like the people get tired of seeing Alabama. But if I wiped and I gave you blind resumes and I showed you these 2 teams, nobody's choosing SMU in that situation. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they got it wrong. I get it. I'm not like mad about it at all. I understand it. Conference championship does matter. But at the same time, I think as you go through the season, there needs to be a way to, as we rank you week in and week out and people move up and people move down, that ranking needs to be tied to somewhat of a strength of schedule. That way teams like SMU, for whatever reason, don't rise too high knowing that they haven't played anyone. So they get a chance to go win themselves into a college playoffs as opposed to losing themselves out of one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so twofold right there. With the last part that you say, winning yourself into it. I think part of it would be I would have liked to see like SMU I don't know, let's say 13th or 14th.
Right, exactly.
In the rank.
Exactly.
So that way, mentally, and for our visual audience here, you could visually say, okay, if they'd have won the ACC championship, yeah, they get the automatic bid, whatever. But now I can visually understand them. They won a big game, and that's why they jumped.
Right.
For people, like you said, it's mismatch in that sense. And then to your first point, I think you were making here, and I'll kind of say this too. We've got to stop. I subscribe to this thought, Jared. I like that term. I subscribe to this thought that when you beat a ranked team and then they fall out of the rankings, that win shouldn't be devalued. Yeah. You're the reason that they're not ranked.
Right.
Yeah.
So to that, and I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's part of what I'm saying. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. To that is, how do you capture, and maybe you don't because it's the human element and it's all subjective, a snapshot of each week, right? Like, okay, within this week, so-and-so was the number 17 team in the country.
Right.
Well, they beat them. Well, now they drop out. Well, does that mean they're bad now? No, it just means that should still be a quality win.
Right.
Even though they're no longer, and maybe they finish 6-6. You don't know. You can't just look at the end of the season and say, well, they're bad. And I think a lot of it is just because we're in social media, everyone's like, we love to use the word fraud alert. Who's on fraud alert? Well, the definition of fraud, is one team. It's Florida State. Like anyone claiming a good win over Florida State, we just know they're not that good.
Right.
That type of
Yeah.
thing. But in other thoughts, like, I think it's just interesting to see how people just immediately say, well, that's not a good win. They're not ranked. Well, at the time, they were number 22 in the country, and you beat them, maybe at their place, that within that snapshot of the week. How do we capture that? I don't know. Everything's so subjective to now.
I love that you're bringing that up because we've had a talk about it on here, and I look at, listen, the Vanderbilt loss is what it is, but people are not putting that in a vacuum to when they lost to Vanderbilt and when it was. So for Alabama, that loss came directly after the absolute roller coaster you just played against Georgia. That's when that loss came. For Vanderbilt, that came after a bye week going into your second SEC game, where the first game you lost to a top 10 at the time, top 10 Missouri team by 3 points in double overtime. That's when they played Alabama. Now, their schedule after that, because everybody was like, oh, it's a 6-loss team. They played Ball State was the one team they played that was not a good team. They played Kentucky, who beat Ole Miss. They played Texas, who they lost to by 3 points. And then they played Auburn. They played Texas, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, and Tennessee all in succession in the year. So that's the 6-loss team you're talking about. That's a gauntlet to go through for that team. So we're looking at them thinking it's Vanderbilt, and you lost a 6-loss Vanderbilt. That's not the same Vanderbilt. 1, 2, who's getting through that schedule without a couple losses anyway? So for me, that's how I look at that.
Well, and to your point, it's the idea of just moving the goalpost, and we've seen a lot of that on social media here, recently. Like any aisle that you're on, like if you're on the aisle of what you're describing, or you're on the other side, it's, well, let me pick and choose my time when I want to argue about this, so it proves that point. And that's statistics, that's data points, and it's why I think a lot of people have seen this recently. It's like, let's just go back to the computer rankings and just take the top 12 teams, the computer rankings. That way
I don't like that either.
I don't like that either.
Well, here's the deal.
I love what's happening now, but I think there has to be.
Yeah.
We can't just, every schedule's not made the same, and I get it. You can't make every schedule the same. I completely understand that. But this also isn't a playoffs built off of participation in, hey, you won your schedule, so you should be in. Well, then why should I make a hard schedule? If I just got to win the schedule,
that's a very real gripe.
Exactly.
But the thing is, they can't change SEC schedules. And
I know, and I guess that's my point for other teams or outside of this league, because they're real. Let's be honest, there is zero way to quantify what it is playing in the SEC. But I can tell you right now, after you play a Florida, after you play a Georgia, it's going to feel a little different than if you got 2 cupcakes. It's gonna play a little different for the trenches and everybody on your roster than if you play 2 cupcakes. That's just the truth of it. I've lived it. I've done it before. I've seen it. That it doesn't work the same.
What if you did it? What if you? Go ahead.
Well, and Jared, to your point, I've said this too. It's why we've got to get people on this committee, first off, that don't have biases towards certain conferences or schools. And let's get people who've been in those situations. Like, to what you're pointing. So I think what you said was perfect, because you kind of go back to LSU's schedule, okay? So they play A&M, they get a bye week, they play Bama, they go to Florida. Now, for the casual observer, I call them rock dwellers because they live under rocks. The casual observer, they go on the road to Florida. That's a terrible loss. Do you have an idea of who Florida is?
Right.
Have you ever been to a game down there?
Right.
Do you know what it's like to step onto the field as LSU, a big rival of Florida, who they don't like? I just think people take the human element out of it sometimes, and they don't understand how hard this really is. It's very hard to go on the road and win. It's very hard to play in the SEC week in and week out. You know what? Mississippi State wasn't a good team this year, but they're not as bad as their record indicates. You aren't always what your record is. That's just, it's not true. All conferences aren't created equal. All schedules aren't created equal. So to that point, yes, I do err on the fact that the SEC is the hardest conference to play in, week out. The committee decided to draw the line with that 3rd loss. That's what they decided to do. Like you said, I don't hate it. I'm not mad about it. I understand it. But I do think we have to recognize that when you pull up that graphic and it says Indiana with a strength of schedule of 80-something or whatever it was, you also have to take that into account when you praise their dominant wins. They did what they were supposed to do, but they did it against some really bad competition.
And people forget what they did in their loss, too. The one loss, they were down 31-15 with a full fourth quarter, and they said, you know what, we're going to run the ball 37 times, run 8 minutes off the clock so we don't end up pushing the ball down the field, throwing picks, giving up more points, and we look like we got blown out. I think they did that on purpose. So if that loss is 52-7 or 52-15, are they still looked at the same?
I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
So like stuff like that, people don't understand. It's one loss. I get it. The schedule. I just think there has to be a way to start trying to figure out how can we quantify this thing of what is not just the SEC but everybody's schedule around the country.
I'm not accusing of Indiana doing this straight up, but isn't it crazy that in a decade we've gone from teams pretty much if you drop one game you're done to where you strive for perfection to now 10 years later, a decade later, you may be trying to strategically lose in the best way possible for PR purposes.
Right.
I mean, that's nuts to think about to where in this part of college football to where, well, maybe I do this. And then how much longer, if they keep this seeding the way it is, do you do it for favorable seeding?
Well,
like,
and that's,
if I'm Oregon, I'm pissed that I had the 1 seed.
Right.
I'd rather have Georgia. I'd rather be the 2 seed.
Well,
so
it's
just crazy stuff to think about.
That's what was my next point, right? And I told you we were going to let you go, but we've gotten off this little tangent. You talked about, I don't think that we need like the BCS computer system to go out and create the rankings. But would there, if that's what people are saying, would there be a way where you say, okay, we're gonna have this, we're gonna do the 12-team playoff, like we're gonna have the committee and we're gonna create the 12 teams based off of who won, and all this kind of stuff, but seeding is gonna be based off of a computer system. So you're not picking the teams based off of what the computer says. You're picking it off based off of what you're saying. But then out of those 12 teams, hey, we're going to factor in strength of schedule, doing whatever, and that is seeded. The top 12 teams are seeded based off of what that system says.
That algorithm says. I think there could be something to that.
And I'm just an idea. I'm not saying that's all I believe in that or not.
There could be. The gripe you'd probably get is people want it consistent. If you're going to do it for this, maybe keep it uniform the whole way.
Right.
Because baseball has this problem too, right? Like we currently have this problem in Major League Baseball where, and correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe they did correct it. I might be wrong here. But like the wild card winner goes to, I don't remember what it is. 3-6 plays the winner of 2-3. So if 6 wins that wild card, then they go to the 2 seed. When in reality, the number 1 seed should have get opportunity to play the perceived worst team.
Right.
And that's the problem. Like Oregon's not going to get to play the perceived worst team. Arguably, when you look at computer rankings, stuff like that, they're going to play a top 6 team. I mean, that's what they're going to do. That's their gift. So I think there's something to that. They got to figure it out. I mean, it's ridiculous. I hate it. Just in terms of what's the point of doing what you did in the regular season if you're Oregon if that's what you're rewarded with. We'll see. And I'll say this too, like, I don't hate the G5, but I think it's ludicrous to put Boise State in. I think that's crazy. That's just my take on it. They don't play hard enough a schedule. I understand they played Oregon very well and very close in week 1, but they played literally one game against probably a top 40, top 50 opponent all year. And they lost that game, and they are the number 3 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
When the ranking has them, they're number 9?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And then Arizona State's sitting there too. It's just why would you have a ranking and then a seeding? Let's just uniform it together and just roll out.
Yeah.
A lot of things. But, this committee, I mean, I can't stand listening to Ward Manuel talk to begin with. I didn't even watch it after this one. I don't even know what he's talking about. So
we could talk about this all night. I know you got to go. You got a family. I kept you longer. I appreciate your time. We're going to have you on again here in the next week or so whenever the portal kind of gets cooking. Could be tomorrow. Could be the next day. Who knows?
Well,
but I'm
I got one question.
Yes.
Is that cool real quick?
Yeah, you can listen. You can stay on for the whole time. I'm doing this for you.
I appreciate that. That makes me feel good. Thoughts on the Juan Soto deal? I don't know if you guys have talked about
actually,
this. I don't know if there's plans to talk about it.
Before the show, I said, listen, maybe we could sneak in the Juan Soto conversation. I'm glad you have time. Thoughts on the Juan Soto deal? Obviously, his age is the reason why he got that much money. right? Because he's 25, 26 years old.
26, golden
and
goose age.
He's going to be able to go up there until he's 41, 15 years. I don't think he deserves more money than Ohtani, but he got more money because they're able to give him more years. They're not going to give Ohtani 15 years because Ohtani will be 45, right? So, that's not going to happen. Ohtani's average value is a lot higher than Juan Soto. He's going to be making $800 million at the end of this deal. Like, that is almost $1 billion. He would have made, by the end of his career, he's going to almost have made $900 million in the game of baseball. Like,
just playing. That's not endorsements.
Just playing.
Literally salary.
Just playing because of the 3 years he had in arbitration. I don't know exactly that number, but I would imagine it equals close to $50, $60 million is what he made in arbitration in 3 years. I think his last year he made either between $25 and $30 million in 1 year, this past year. So good for him, but I think it sets a crazy precedent on future contracts because if this is the case, you're going to see $1 billion deal at some point.
Well, here's the thing. So the number did for me. It came in way higher than I thought. I didn't think he was going to surpass Ohtani, but I also would have never guessed that he would have gotten 5 more years on the deal with Ohtani. So I guess that's part of it. But I do look at it and I sit here and I say, look, first off, for people that don't know, like truly know baseball, 26 years old is legitimately the golden goose age in terms of getting to free agency.
Not many people do that.
No, they don't. And everyone that does, just go look at the contracts of when they signed those contracts and what they were at that time.
I guess Trout was the last one, right?
Trout never got there because he took the deals before.
That's right.
Bryce Harper got there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Harper got there. I think Manny Machado got there. That's the age where it's extremely rare for a player to be able to come up at the 19-year-old age and get to free agency without having to go back down, which means you lose service time, so you don't actually get that full amount of time to get you to that spot. It's extremely rare to get to that spot. So when players do get there, you're basically looking at a player that probably never really dipped when it comes to production-wise, pretty much was never hurt and probably stayed on the field pretty much all the time. Like, it's almost written into it where it's like, well, he's already done this. Where does it project? So, like, that's kind of what that spot is. So when you get to that spot, yeah, the number's crazy. I don't think it's going to truly inflate because, once again, I think that's the golden goose age. You just got to also remember, this is the same guy that probably 2 seasons ago turned down little less than 500. So that number right there is
480,
right. That number right there is the one I think that kind of inflates everything else that kind of goes up. But I was surprised simply because, like I said, I didn't expect for 5 more years to be able to get to this kind of number. It is crazy the amount of money. And I also do think when somebody's going to give you a guaranteed contract for 15 years out, that probably means there's a lot more money on the other side of it for them as well. So I would imagine that they're going to make a ton of money on this.
The next one in line to be able to reach that golden goose age is Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt Jr., 22.
If he does that, that will be $1 billion contract.
So
Guaranteed.
22, 23. In 2022, he was 22. 2023, he was 23. And then 24. So I guess no. He'll be 27.
See, and this is my point. Like,
he'll be 27.
And he'll probably get close to it, but that's my point. Like, it is extremely rare for a player to get to free agency at that age. Like,
and he just turned. I think Juan Soto just turned 26.
Yeah,
allegedly.
And remember, like, once again, we just talked about this too. Like 2 years ago, this man turned down almost $500 million to get here.
And I think that was also a big reason why he got the $785 million. Well, really $800 million deal because he's not going to opt out, and they're going to increase his salary $4 million more a year at the back end. So it's going to be like an $804 million deal when it's all said and done. But I think that turning down that, hey, I got offered this $485 million deal, and look how much better I have been the last 2 years since then. So that was kind of like the benchmark. Like, I'm not signing anything less than that, obviously, and it's going to have to be significantly more. And he had the biggest markets in all of baseball bidding against each other, which also helps, right? Like, you have the Yankees and the Mets, and you have the Red Sox and the Dodgers.
2 of them in the same city.
And they hate each other.
That definitely helps.
No doubt. Definitely helps. What's your take on it?
You know, it's interesting because for people who don't know, I'm a Braves fan, so we get to see more Juan Soto in the NL East. And it's just interesting to be a fan of a franchise, and I think I've talked with you guys kind of off air about this kind of stuff, just like how different franchises operate and what's the perception of those. It's interesting to be a fan of a franchise where you have a guy who, look, I think it was a year apart Soto and Acuna came in, and obviously Acuna's had 2 ACL tears. It's different, but I was reading some stuff today just about how what Acuna's not going to be a free agent until 31 in terms of age 31. Is what type of contract would he get? And they've really kind of opened it back up to like what would he have gotten? Because he had just turned 20 when he, I think, made his debut. So that put arbitration to what? Just 27? That would have put that at that? Is it 7 years?
For Soto?
You got it.
Or Acuna?
No, for Acuna.
Yeah,
For
20.
Acuna.
It'll be like 6 full seasons, so probably around the 27 year. It'll
So
probably be
27,
27.
depending on when his birthday is.
Yeah,
type
right.
of thing. So it's just interesting to be a fan of a team that gets guys to be able to get locked up, and look, it's life-changing money for regardless. And then to see this type of deal, I mean, it's just two ends of the spectrum, really. But my biggest thing is, I was talking with some people about, with him specifically. Obviously, Steve Cohen is not worried. I mean, they're trying to win a championship, right?
Right.
The NLCS, they're trying to do that. They feel like he's the piece that can take them over the top. I'll be interested to see like what the rest of their roster looks like, and then in fold, like, are they even worried about the effectiveness of Juan Soto later on? Because I do believe that Soto is a guy that will age well, like the hit tool,
right.
in terms of like what he's able to do.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see how much people are willing to play for the now, and just the different discrepancies where people just work, like how different front offices work. I think that's just really interesting. Like obviously Cohen's like, we got to go do this now. We've had Lindor forever, how many more years? Now we've got Soto. I imagine this doesn't mean they re-up Pete Alonso. I don't know. Like I don't know what type of money they're working with, and it just makes it so interesting.
Well,
like you imagine if the NFL didn't have cap, like how much would Mahomes be getting paid?
Yeah, right.
Like it's just crazy to think about.
Right, because their organizations are valued higher than Major League Baseball
Coach,
organizations are valued. So teams are richer there.
Do you think the NFL ever could do anything like that?
No. They'll never.
It's called college football.
They'll never let them. I mean, they'll never. Owners will never agree to that. The no salary cap.
I don't know how. I mean, it's scary to think about what Mahomes.
You think they will? Okay, here's a question. Here's a better question. Do you think they'll ever agree to fully guaranteed contracts across the board?
Nope. Not the owners.
Oh no, not the owners.
I mean, the players would love that.
No, of course they would.
Yeah, but the owners. I don't think.
I don't even know how the union would fight that. To be honest, like I wonder how they would. How would you even table that discussion?
You
Like,
would
how
table it
bring
by
that-
missing
bring that up?
2 straight seasons. Like
Yeah. Hey, you're
like,
just not
that's
gonna.
probably the only way you could do it. I don't
Yeah.
think that would ever happen. But I think that's a different.
And
thing.
to your point about Juan Soto aging well, right? Like, or his skill set aging in the game of baseball. He's had every single season outside of his 19 and 20-year-old years. He has more walks than strikeouts, like significantly more walks than strikeouts. And to me, that shows obviously the ability, like the type of hitter he is, and the ability to be patient, the ability to kind of work counts and get on base and be a productive hitter, not just hitting balls out of the ballpark. Because he's not a guy that's going to go out there and hit 70 homers, right? I mean, he hit 41 this past year, which is the most, but he's playing in New York, which everybody knew once he signed with the Yankees that was going to happen because of the short porch in right field and the ability to hit homers. And so I think his ability to put the bat on the baseball and not strike out, be able to work counts, I think that's going to create his longevity. Now, obviously, his skill set's going to be able to carry it, but is his body going to keep up? That's the difference.
I will say this too. That's the one thing about the entire move for me that is, it becomes rare because, like, don't get me wrong, like Aaron Judge is everything that he is, but let's not be short-sighted to understand that a lot of your numbers will be inflated if you go and play in Yankee Stadium for 82 games out of the year, right? So like that's our 81 games out of the year. That's always a help. So to be the opportunity to be able to hit right around probably in front of Aaron Judge for another large part of your career and to do it in that ballpark and what that could mean numbers-wise for your legacy, to me, I guess $5 million in what was it, 1 year, or was it one more year for $5 million less is like, was it worth it? I guess we'll find out. I don't know, but that's it was. I'm surprised in that front that he said, "Yep, this is the decision I'm gonna go ahead and go with."
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see where the Pirates were also like in it at the last second, which is I don't know if that was real or not.
Not real. No
That's
way.
interesting.
There's no way that
was
could be
real.
real. That has to be
There's no
something they
chance.
floated because I can't imagine that they even came halfway close when it comes to money wise
Probably more than their entire roster.
So
over the last like 10 years.
Yeah.
I was
Probably.
curious. I was curious to see who would be next in line for this potentially mega contract.
Paul Skeens.
No, well he's gonna have a mega, but not like this because he's gonna be a little old. He's gonna be older. But Jackson Churio from the Brewers.
Okay. Yep.
He's 20, but to your point, Bryce, before he even played one inning in Major League Baseball signed an 8-year, $82 million deal with the Brewers.
Yeah.
So
I don't fault guys for that.
No, me either.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. People get mad at the Braves. They're taking advantage. And what I've talked to
They
people
are,
about my league
but
level,
that's a
they're
good
like,
They
business
are.
move.
It's a good business move.
You are, but it's a good business move. But these kids, this is also, it's also giving these kids some guaranteed money
Yeah.
that you just never know, and for a lot of them you don't know. And so
Well,
if it does pan out to where they are a $1 billion type of player, well, yeah, that'd have been nice to be able to cash in on that.
Well, here,
But if not,
There's only one situation where that turns out bad. And this doesn't happen across the league, and I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't happen at all. But if you are the front office and or the organization that offers that, the kid does not take it, and then now you somehow find a way to use it against him, to either hold him back, to either suppress it, to either hold it over his head, whatever it may be, that's where the situation's bad. And I do think something like that happened with Kelenic when he was in Seattle. He didn't take the deal.
Yep.
They didn't like it. Next thing you know, he's no longer there. He's in Atlanta now. So I do think that kind of stuff happens. And if the team does do that, that's where I think it becomes a bad thing. But as far as for actually offering it and doing it, no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. They
doubt.
should be doing that.
No doubt, and I have no problem with that. It's up to it gives the player an option, right, to be able to take the deal or not take the deal. Some guys have taken now. Those team friendly deals are a lot more expensive than they used to be.
Yeah.
Right. The team friendly deals
And they
used to
come
be-
earlier.
Right, and they come a lot earlier. The team
don't come
friendly
2
deals
years into
used
your
to
league.
be
Yeah,
100%. They used to be, hey, we're going to give you a 7-year deal worth $22 million with options for your 8th and 9th year that maybe gets you up to $45 million. Right? That was like a typical Tampa early deal, right? These deals are obviously a lot more expensive. Bregman signed one when he got to Houston, the 5-year, $100 million deal. But if Churio is 28 years old at the end of that year, he'll be going into his 29-year-old year. After, if he's as good as he is, having an opportunity to have another contract that could be significant. And the other guy, I guess, that we can talk about is Jackson Merrill, right? He was 20 years old this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, had a rookie of the year type of guy. But those are the two guys. That's really the only guy because Jackson Churio is on a contract now to maybe have this mega deal. But yeah, it's a wild thing. We'll see.
I think you have to be up at some point in your year 19.
To be in Juan
age
Soto's
to
part.
be in Juan Soto's spot.
Yep. So they're all going to be a year
yeah,
behind.
that was the year they won the title, right? Washington, his 19-year-old year.
Was it his rookie year?
That was 18.
Was it his rookie year? I know he was early in his career. I wasn't sure. It was the year Bryce Harper left that year, so I think it might have actually
It was
been
the
that
year after Harper left.
Right.
And Soto. It might have been. I don't know.
I think it might have been
Interesting stuff.
because I'm not sure they played together.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did.
I don't know that answer. You know what? I don't think they did because
think
I
they
remember
did.
when they got rid of him.
Right.
They got rid of him because now they have another
Right.
Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. But
Couldn't keep either of them. Oof.
it's gonna be
Appreciate
interesting to see
you,
what
fellas.
base. Yeah,
Sorry for
appreciate.
derailing
No. Listen.
No, this is great.
This is like I said. I was trying to be sensitive of your time. I know we always keep you a lot longer than we say we're gonna keep you, and I don't want you to hate us and not show up on our show and give us all the insight that you gave us today. So I'm just being sensitive to your time. You can stay on the whole show. I already told you you can be part of the show anytime you want for the entirety of the show.
Well, I will go and eat dinner with my wife.
Yeah,
and
go eat
child,
dinner with your
but,
wife and
I
child.
do
Be a good
appreciate
dad
it,
and
fellas.
husband.
Joe Sloan to Michigan?
Jesus Christ, Lord. Right before he walks off.
I'm kidding, dude.
All right, dude. Appreciate you. Later. Have a good dinner.
See y'all. Appreciate
Later.
it.
Yep. I don't feel as bad. I didn't do that. He did that to himself.
Man likes ball.
He
dude.
did. Look,
That's not his
and I
fault.
knew that he wanted to talk Juan Soto. I was just being sensitive of his time frame, and I'm glad he brought it up because I did want to talk about it. with him.
He was locked. He was
Yep.
ready.
It's
It's a good Monday for
Hey,
conversation.
you
right
brought up Joe Sloan, right?
here. No, I didn't.
No,
Did I?
just he brought up Joe
That
Sloan.
was
But
him.
in the group text,
Yeah.
we were talking about you had some guys who've declared
Yeah.
from the draft to the draft. One of those being Mason Taylor.
Right.
Thanked a lot of people.
Right.
And didn't maybe omitted some people.
Yeah.
Did you think that was a big deal?
I
Or
don't
is that
know.
just kind of an oversight, maybe? Or I'm not as close with him because he wasn't here. He wasn't really developing me.
But I mean, he was here.
Right.
He was in the quarterback room. He was here. And I guess the way I look at it, like, I don't know. I'm not in the building. I don't know what the hell's going on in the building every day. But I do see it as maybe he wasn't the one that recruited him and got him here. Okay, that's check. No big deal. Maybe he wasn't the one that put him on the field early. Okay, check. That's no big deal. But in terms of being the most productive tight end that's ever played in purple and gold in Baton Rouge at LSU, that had a lot to do with the production that happened this year. Joe Sloan was still the only one here for that. So it wasn't like all of a sudden he was Casper the Friendly Ghost this year and he didn't see the rock.
Right.
He was still very productive this year. So it's hard for me to think that when I'm going to write something like that and I'm listing off people, oh shit, I just forgot Joe.
Right.
That's hard for me to believe that that's how it happened.
Right.
So it's weird that's what happened and that's how the whole conversation went, but like that's what you put out there because now it seems like, well, it seems like something ain't right in the building. And I don't know that it's not or that it is, but it doesn't seem like that was a mistake.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I mean, he thanks Slade Nagel. He's there for 1 year.
Right. That is a good point.
And he thanked Mike Denbrock, who's no longer there.
Right. Was there for 2 years.
But that's why I said, like, I don't know who recruited him. I don't know who got him here. But I know who was a big part in why he was able to be productive this year.
Yeah, I mean, who's Roger Harriet?
I don't even know who that is. I'm just being respectful. I really don't.
Was this somebody maybe not here?
I don't know.
I think it was his high school coach.
There you go. Maybe so. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if we're going to go all the way down to high
Yeah,
school
he was
after
a high
3
school
years,
coach.
then, I mean,
St. Thomas Aquinas. I went to high school?
Yeah,
That's-
3-star.
yep.
You had room for Joe Sloan in there. So that's and I didn't even know that this happened. That's good, like, insight on your part to, like, read kind of between the lines a little bit.
And
But
look, I read it, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty well written." And then you brought it in there, I was like,
well, it's in
No,
bold.
and-
It's in bold.
"Yeah." And
Yeah, that's in bold. That's the other part. Like,
and you said
you wanted to put emphasis on this. Like, I'm pretty sure he had to. Yeah, that's how I want it before they put it out there.
And you said, "What's missing?" I was like, "Wait a minute!" Like, you said, "This is explosive," and I was thinking, I was like,
Just a
"I just read this." I was like, "It sounded like it was pretty good." And then I went back, I was like, "Oh, good point. Good point."
I don't know. I'm not in the building, dude. I don't know what's going on. I don't have any conversation. I'm not talking to anybody about it every day. I just don't. I don't think stuff like that happens by accident. I just don't.
And the last time that LSU had this conversation was, and I'm not comparing the two, but nor Mik'd Wingo or Mason Smith thanked Matt House whenever they made their declaration.
Exactly. And I'll put this out there too. Like, he pens the letter or he puts it together. He gives it to LSU football to put it out there. Do you think they blindly posted it? You don't think they read it? You don't think, hey, you sure you want, this is what you want?
That's a different
yes, that's what I
conversation.
want. So, like, it's just, it felt weird. Let's put
Yeah,
it that
it's
way.
weird. It's an
It felt
omission
weird.
for sure, and it's not one that slips through the cracks.
It did, though.
I don't think it did.
Yeah.
I think it was, no, I'm good on exactly how it is.
His cracks, you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because if you're LSU, it shouldn't have. You just go type that in and say, oh, like, you'll take that's not what my statement said, like, too bad.
I don't know. That was a
That's
fishy
interesting.
one. Yeah,
because I do
wasn't-
think there's where there's smoke, there's fire, like we saw last year. Like I said with House, like that was not. I mean, you saw it happen on the field, and then you saw it whenever they pinned their letter, and then you saw it after, where, I believe it was Mik'd Wingo that went after he came into Louisiana and won a game for what did he won the Jaguars, right? Either way, he said, I thought I could. Oh, no, it was Jamar Cain. That whenever the Broncos beat the Saints, he was like, oh, I thought I couldn't win in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
And so there's been a lot of fodder, but, like taking shots that are kind of silenced, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
You
That's
know?
your OC.
Yeah.
I didn't think Hankton, but he's not a wide receiver.
Well, right.
He's not a receiver.
Right.
So I just, it's just, I don't know.
If you have room for the high school coach, you
Hey,
have
look,
room for your offensive coordinator.
This is what happens in the offseason. You start
This is
looking at
a
other
great
stuff.
tiger dropping spread you're about to start.
No doubt. I hope it. That means we got people listening to us.
I
hope
would
it
love to
starts.
know. Yeah, like who else caught it? Who else
I
saw
hope it
it?
starts.
No, but I haven't heard this one yet.
Yeah,
so.
I hope it starts. I don't know.
I like Sloan.
Listen, I've gotten to meet him. I think he's a great guy, and I think that he had some ups and downs this year in his first year as an offensive play caller.
As you probably should.
As you should, right? And so I'm not
should.
sitting here saying he's not a good coach or he's not good, he shouldn't be here, or anything like that. I am just pointing out something that we thought was interesting, and wondering what your opinion was on it, right? And I think Joe Sloan's going to be here next year, and I'm hoping that you bring back Nussmeier, and I'm hoping that the offense takes that next step, and he's learned some things, and he's got a lot more rhythm to his play calling, and a lot more the ability to get a little bit more creative quicker. You know what I mean? As far as being in the flow of the game and kind of getting the rhythm of calling plays, right? It takes some time. You have to learn it. Listen, it took Joe Brady some time to do it. Now it feels like Joe Brady, now it helps that you have, as McVay called him, an alien.
I'm going to be honest with you, too. Like, I wonder how much of his quote-unquote struggles as an offensive coordinator had to do with who's your game breaker.
Right.
Like, who
Aaron Anderson. But,
who is your game breaker?
That's it.
Which had to – Aaron Anderson became your game breaker once we got to, game 9 of the year?
Yeah.
That wasn't – I wouldn't sit here and say that every team was going into their prep that week saying, hey, bro, you got to stop one. I'm not sure every team was saying that. And that's no knock to Aaron Anderson. I'm just saying the production wasn't there yet for you to say, we have to stop him. Who was your Trey Harris? Who was the guy that people said, we have to stop him? Kyron Lacey. I would imagine that was the guy, right?
They stopped him
he didn't lead you in offensive production.
Right.
So I wonder how much of that, because it's easy for us to, when you watch the season, you watch the games, you see the outcomes, you sit there and say, well, this is what this team was. I can't believe this. But we also sat here, pretty much everybody, before the year and said, that's probably a 3-loss team. Well, they lost one more than 3. But the sky's falling now? Like, it's not like we sat here and said, hey, if they're not a 1-loss or a national championship team, there's a problem here. Right. So nobody said that before the year. You pretty much had the year that people thought you were before the year, right? And now it's like who's the problem? Where is it at? Like, maybe they just need more dudes. Maybe.
And that's what they're trying to do in the portal. Trying to add some pieces. But, Bryce brought it up, too, and we talked about it before the show, where they're adding a lot of the same skill caliber guys.
Yeah, that was my big question about it. Like, those guys that they have that are in the portal, I get it. Which one of them's winning on tight coverage on third down? I don't know yet. I haven't seen it yet.
And that puts a lot of onus on the offensive coordinator to design an offense around a bunch of.
No, it doesn't. That you have to have a guy. Like, you have to have an X guy.
I'm just saying, if you don't get one, you can design an offense around that, but where it's like a bunch of underneath.
But like, look around the country, teams that don't have those dudes, they struggle in terms of those situations. Yeah, they do. There just is that's ball. I don't care what kind of play caller you got. That is ball. When it comes to the totality of a year, game in and game out, if you ain't got that guy. Yeah. Bro, it's hard.
You're going to lose a game.
I don't give a damn who your quarterback is, who your play caller is. If you don't have a guy, and I'm not necessarily saying he has to be on the outside. He could be in the backfield. And I'm not saying anything about Caden. Caden's a very good player. Yeah, he was also a true freshman in this league. That's hard to do. I'm just saying in terms of that, you need to have that.
Well, look, I think the stats, that's what I was just looking at. I think the stats, historically, prove that, right? If you go look at the offenses LSU has had that were good, they've always had a guy on the outside, right? Like, you take the running backs out of it, but you've always had a guy on the outside, really even in the backfield, to be able to be your game breaker, right? 1,000 yards.
Coach.
1,000 yards receiving or 1,000 yards rushing, right? You go back, I was going back through all this. 2021, before this year, was the last year they did not have a 1,000-yard wide receiver, which was only 3 years ago.
Fuck. 2022, we were saying the same shit. Everybody said going into 2023.
Yeah, man, you got to see it more.
Man, I need to see more out of Malik Neighbors. He's got to take a next step.
No
he only had.
Yeah, 1,000.
So you were saying the same thing about Malik when 2022. Like, we didn't think
that 1,000 yards.
And he had 1,000 yards, but we didn't think what you saw. Like, oh, that's our dude. Like, he is doing it. That's nothing against him. I'm just saying, like, that's a part of the game. Like, you have to have those, especially in this damn league.
Yeah, the leader,
especially in this league.
2021, bad year. This was the year, right? That's when O was gone. The leading wide receiver on that team at LSU, who was it?
Oh man, I know this. He got a touchdown against Texas A&M.
You definitely know the name. Kayshawn.
Was he?
509 yards receiving.
Oh, fuck me.
Wasn't 300 of it in one game?
No, that was his freshman year.
That was in
freshman
2020.
year.
Okay, that was in 2020. But 200 of it was in the UCLA game that year.
David Price.
He was hurt the entire year.
Tyrion David Price has 1,000 yards, but that's because he went off the last 2 weeks of the season.
Florida. All-time lead. Hey, holds a single-game rushing record.
Kayshawn had
Not a
38.
name that you would pick at LSU is Todd Davis Price.
Kayshawn had 38 receptions for 509 yards and 9 touchdowns. The next guy, the second receiver, Jeray Jenkins.
That's who I thought it was going to be.
34 catches for 502 yards, right?
That's basically right.
So, 2021, obviously bad offensive year, right? But you didn't have a playmaker, which I think that's an obvious.
Kayshawn should have been your playmaker,
right?
But he gets hurt.
Right. I think that was an obvious thing. 2020's COVID doesn't count. 2019, self-explanatory, right? 2018, Justin Jefferson was 875, right? Nick Brissett was your running back. He rushed for 1,039 yards. That was Joe Burrow's first year, and so the offense was still trying to figure it out. Now, the defense was obviously
very good.
Very good. So that helps. No game breakers, subpar offense, average offense. 2017, this is when it starts getting embarrassing. Actually, 2017 was fine because you had guys. Guys had 1,200 yards rushing.
Stricken from the record book.
DJ Chark had 874 yards receiving. Didn't have a playmaker on the outside. 2016, Malachi Dupree leading it, 593.
How many catches?
Malachi?
12.
Stop.
41.
Stop.
I wasn't that far off.
Darius Guys had 14. Basically, had
dirty
1,400.
work.
He had 1,400 yards rushing that year, though. That's when this was obviously Les Miles were going to run the ball. Leonard Fournette almost had 2,000 yards rushing in 2015. Malachi led the league.
Came in 7th in the Heisman.
But anyway, my point in saying all of that is you've seen what the offenses have looked like and not being able to get over the hump on these big wins when you don't have a guy on the outside that can win consistently.
And I would say since the 16, 17, especially in this league in the
those
SEC.
Early years don't count because there's a whole different type of deal.
Yeah, I think since 16, 17, especially in the SEC, it has turned way more into an offensive league, right? That's happened. You have to have those. And I'm just saying the years that you don't, or you look around the league at the teams that don't, it just doesn't look the same. It just doesn't.
I'm wondering, they're building this team as far as of what you can see now, especially through recruiting, is it doesn't look like they're kind of pivoting at the way the NFL is pivoting, where it's going to be a lot of feed the running back and try to play good defense.
Cyclical. It's cyclical.
That's right, and I think it is.
You are going to have. They're still going to have.
What happens for it to get that way?
But the defenses are now equipped to defend.
How are they equipped that way?
Oh, with secondary guys and smaller guys and faster guys.
Exactly, because we no longer have the big 240, 250-pound linebacker. It's guys that can run sideline to sideline. So if that's the case, well, if you got the defense filled with that, I'm just going.
No doubt. And that's why it's so cyclical. You go back and forth, right? So, I think that the college football is going to be a little different than NFL in the sense of is not going to see a complete total shift. You're still going to see some passing games, but you're not going to. You may never see somebody throw for as many. Not saying never. That's an aggressive statement, but for someone throwing for the amount of yards that Joe Burrow threw for, the way football is kind of moving and what they're trying to do again, it's going to be hard to.
I won't say here's the thing. You can't not do it.
I thought
no, you can't not do it. You got to remember too. College football is. The spaces are different. The hashes are wider. It allows you to run side to side more. It gives you more space. That's why the game is played the way it is. So for that reason itself, there's always going to be more yardage and stuff like that. And you more so than what you said about Joe Burrow and all of that stuff, the clock changed. So that clock stuff has changed it a lot too, where you can't have the Baker Mayfield versus, Patrick Mahomes game, where they both threw for over 600 yards or some shit like that. So you're not going to have much of that in regular time anymore. That's going to change as well. But, like we said, things start to change, things start to turn, and people start to realize, you got a roster filled of smaller dudes. I'm going to play with bigger dudes. I do think it's kind of coming somewhere meeting in the middle and coming back to that a little bit more.
And it feels like Georgia is the one that's continue to figure out the most, where they can do both.
Well, they haven't figured it out. I mean, they just never stopped.
Right, yeah.
That part, if you have a run game of football, that part always gives you the chance.
And their
I think that's why
always hunts.
That's why everybody is kind of wanted to stay on that.
Here's a cool trivia question: Who led the league? Who led the college football this year in passing yards?
Is it a Power 5 guy or
Shedeur,
Power 4?
maybe?
It's a Power 5. I'm not sure.
Cam Ward?
Second. Shedor's third.
Cam Ward second, Shedor's third. I'm gonna go with I don't know.
Kyle McCord.
Oh, I did hear that.
Oh,
the other
fuck,
day.
I knew that.
I actually did hear that. Yeah.
4,326 yards. That is 1,700 yards. Didn't Joe throw for 6,000? No.
Coach, once again, Joe threw with who?
I know. No.
Right.
I understand.
With who?
Look,
Once again.
I understand it. I understand all that. I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is the way teams are defending it is differently now than it has been with the combined with of the rules and what they're doing.
That's why I say I think the rule change is bigger because
No doubt.
we when Joe did what he did,
It's a
we
combination
thought we'd
of
never
it all.
see anything close to it. Lo and behold, the next year, touchdowns wise,
No, Joe
2
threw
years.
60 touchdowns.
I say 2 years, not 2 years later. Lo and behold, 2 years into Jaden Daniels' career here, touchdown wise, it was pretty much the same. Why? Because he had 2 first-round receivers that were dogs on the outside.
Yeah.
So I
got
like
these two.
Yeah. So like
And
you
he
just
rushed for a lot.
you just gotta you gotta understand like when you have that it just changes the game into something a little bit different.
No doubt.
So
And
I think
I'm not-
that had a lot to do with
for sure. And
that
I'm not
as well.
disagreeing. I'm just saying like I was just going based off of what it looked like. Nussmeier was 6th in the country,
Yeah, people forget that.
3,700 yards.
I want him out of here though.
They want him out of here.
He's not good enough.
Remember
Not-
how
not
excited
good
people
enough.
were for Burrow in 2018 when he threw for 2,800 yards,
Wow.
16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions? And now you would have run Nussmeier out of town and boom in his own
As a
stadium.
first-year starter.
First year starter. And then Joe went for 5,600 yards and 60 touchdowns.
I'd like to see that jump.
Remember-
I'd like to see
remember-
Nussmeier stick around.
You remember in
maybe.
2022 when it was like, God dang, that Jaden Daniels kid, he just won't stay in the pocket.
All he
and
does
throw
is
it.
run the ball.
And I was like, well, Nuss will get out the pocket and run.
I kind of like that running thing.
Oh, man.
And now they're in the everybody's screaming, we got to get a running quarterback out the portal.
It's crazy. It's crazy, huh?
It's nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts. All you got to do is
Football
run.
can only be played one way. It's the last way I saw it.
hope
I
he-
liked it the
look,
most.
I hope
He's got to stay there.
I
Yeah.
hope he comes back and everybody is assuming he's going to come back. He's going out there and he's going to go through all the evaluations in the NFL,
Yeah.
right? And if the evaluations come back and say, hey, we have you as a second round grade,
He's a first rounder.
right? And it's not a guarantee that he's going to get those grades because of the years. And I know he wants to.
You put him in a combine.
You let him throw the football, he's going to impress people. He's probably going to impress them in the rooms too with the way he understands defenses and he understands concepts, all of those types of things. And so
He has a tutor.
He is going to be in there and he's going to be able to show his skills and he is going to be able to stack up against a weak quarterback class. I don't know how much of a rumor it is, but there's potential that Quinn Ewers may come back and try to up his draft stack. I don't think that's going to happen.
He ain't coming back to Texas.
No, I don't think it's going to happen because I think they want Arch to be
They
the
want
guy.
Arch now.
Yep. And so
I'm shocked he didn't play. I think that was like a Quinn Ewers look.
Why are you shocked he didn't play?
He was playing on one leg.
Who, Ewers?
Uh-huh.
Coach, they dominated the game yards wise. They didn't like get in and score, but don't get me wrong. Like once they got in the tight red zones, yes,
The mobility became a factor.
But my point is Ewers did not play a bad game.
No,
he didn't finish drives.
No, I don't think he played poorly at all. I just saying I'm surprised that you didn't see whenever they needed a little bit of juice. I'm surprised that you didn't see Arch because just that's why he's there. Like you saw him do it the week before where he came in and ran like some wildcat packages.
Yeah.
He didn't sniff it, and I think that was clear. Like, hey, Quinn, because he seemed a little bit in and out of what. That's not what the quarterback at Texas looks like to me. Like it feels like he would be like commanding everything. And Arch has all of that kind of swagger to him of like he feels like the starter. Like the people love him. The teams like all celebrate with him. Clem's always a moon pod. He's like got this big eyes are big and he's looking around. He doesn't really know what's going on. But I'm not saying he didn't play good because he did. He put up good numbers. But that pick you throw on the sidelines is inexcusable. Like
Yeah,
that's
that
out.
wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
That wasn't good.
You know, off his back foot and like that kind of stuff. Where it's like Quinn.
I feel like
Can't have
he's
it.
always done stuff like that too.
And that's the question about Nuss. Like that was a Nussmeier stat line. Threw for 360 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. And it's like, if you do that in the SEC championship, you're probably going to lose.
But the thing is Quinn's got 3 years of starter experience.
Right, exactly.
Nuss has got.
But I'm saying, I would expect Nuss to do that this year.
Right.
He would go in there and throw for 360 and a touchdown. It's like, if you cut down those turnovers, you got a chance to win.
Yeah. Bengals defense stinks, doesn't it?
You see that? He's just wide open. Huh?
I just took
Cooper
the over. I
Rush,
took the
Cooper
over.
Rush went straight in there and just right down the field. Touchdown. 7 yards. 7-0.
I took the over every time.
I feel
the Bengals
so
play.
bad for Joe and the boys because they are lighting it up offensively.
Oh, they're having a blast.
An historic offensive year.
Is that their coaches? Is that because they want to fire
Zach Taylor's a
offensive guy? That's what I'm saying. But they're calling for his
But their
head.
defensive coach,
Is a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lou Anarumo.
Anarumo, yeah, and they've been good the last couple years defensively.
Awesome. Turn the ball over a
now
ton.
now they are not.
Swiss cheese.
Now they are not. Mike Hilton was good. Now he's not good.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what happened.
You still got Trey Henderson still leading the league.
And
in sacks.
Trey Henderson still gets
Somehow, I don't know how.
it's the secondary.
It's
Is
crazy.
it fair to say that they're just losing close games? Like they're still a good football team. You just sometimes
100,
you just lose close
100%.
games.
They've lost a lot of close games, but why do you lose close games? Because their defense stinks.
Because they give up a lot of points.
You can't expect your offense to score 40 points in the NFL to win games. The offense has scored 30 points. I think they've lost 3 or 4 games that they've scored 30 or more points.
Yeah, just I just
They
think
got-
that's the
there's some
NFL.
crazy,
Sometimes
yeah.
like there's always, especially in a division like that, there's
can't
always going to be one team that's like, we played good, dude. Like we're good, and we're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It just happens sometimes. Like I don't know.
You usually never see quarter like Joe's got 5 interceptions on the season. Like you would think
He'd
with
be
that,
MVP.
like they have to have a winning record. Maybe one game over 500, but like they gotta have a winning record, huh? Where they're like 5 games under. That's crazy to think at this point.
The last quarterbacks to do what he has done, all had like 9-3 at this point in the season. 9-3, 9-2 records, and they're all MVP candidates or won the MVP.
And you're just out there getting the shit kicked in and throwing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then they got Jamar at the podium asking questions about the offense. Like, I don't fucking know, dude. Like, you
mean,
asking me
offensive-
for it?
like-
We played good.
They got people talking right now saying that the Bengals should trade Jamar. I'm like,
tell you
are
what,
y'all crazy?
The Bengals,
yeah, make Joe real happy.
the Bengals are
And not sign T. Higgins.
I mean, they're not obviously not.
Yeah,
gonna
that's what I'm
sign him, just
saying. Give it to
like,
both of them.
So you want to empty the cupboard just to get draft picks when you know you got a dog right here playing with his guy?
Yeah, you maximize that window.
Like what? No, he's staying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, Mike Tom was like, this is the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Jamar's nasty.
He is the best wide receiver.
By the way,
He is the best one.
Sneaky Russ over there. Oh my!
Oh, he's having an unbelievable year.
He
Sneaky
throws
Russ over
he
there.
throws a pretty ball.
Oh, no doubt.
He can drop into the bucket. He always
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Always
I
good.
think it's pretty obvious at this point that Sean Payton basically said, "Look,
I don't like you.
no. I really don't think it was that. This is me. This is my thought. I haven't talked to nobody. I don't know anything about it. I think Sean said, I want to end my career in Denver.
With my guy. With the guy that I want.
The only way I can do that is I got to stay here longer than you. You're 35. I got more than 5, probably more than 10 years here. You're not going to play until you're 45. You got to go.
I'm not re-upping this thing 5 years in.
I literally think Sean said, so how do I systematically, strategically get you out of here? Because I need to have a guy. And this is a good quarterback class. I really do think he did that.
Yeah.
I think that's what he did.
And that's the other part about, like, we talk about good quarterback class. That's the other part. If you really look at this from, like, in a vacuum, if you're Nussmeier, there's not a lot of reasons to stay. Like, the quarterback class that you're going
Look,
into.
There's
like
a lot of
what you would do in a combine setting.
There's
like,
a
you're
lot
gonna
of
go first
positives
round.
to leave. Right now, if he's going to get a 3rd round grade, there's a lot of reasons to come back.
He ain't.
I don't know. Here's the thing.
There's not a third round quarterback to take.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean they're gonna these guys are gonna take. I mean, I guess
They
it does.
do,
I mean, they do it all
man.
the time. You're right. They do it all the time.
Here's the thing, man.
Tim Tebow went the first.
I'll say this, dude. Like when you got, I
Rock
get it.
Osweiler,
Yeah, that's the first one I was
Hey,
thinking.
let me ask you
Paxton
this
Lynch.
question.
Brandon Whedon.
Paxton Lynch.
Let me ask you this question. When it comes to, I don't think Nussmeier wants to be a first rounder. I think he wants to be the top of the first round.
Right.
You're not putting him over Shador. Not yet. You're
No.
not putting him over
Over
Cam. Not yet.
He's the next one.
You're probably not putting
I
over
don't-
yours.
Coach,
He's in that bucket.
I don't think. Here's why I don't think so. Because I think when you get to the draft this year, I do think a lot of these teams are gonna. Put crazy value on. Coach, you got 12 starts in your career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will take Carson. If we can coach the interceptions that happened the last half of the season on the team that has the most drops in the country, We can coach them interceptions out of
They
Carson
drop
Beck.
a ton of balls.
We can coach them interceptions out of Carson Beck. I don't know what this is going to turn into because you don't have that. Like, I really do think that he's at best this year going to be the 5th quarterback. So if that's the case, where are you really? Are we going to sit here and say for sure we know 2 years in a row they're going to take 5 quarterbacks in the first round? I don't think so. So like, I think he may end up, even if the grade says first round, I think he may fall out when it comes down to it.
I think a team will take Jalen Milroe over him.
At the back end of the first half, maybe.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's possible.
So I'm looking at these rankings, right? Like, this is obviously all.
Yeah, of course.
You know, Shador is the number 1 ranked quarterback. Cam Ward's number 2. Milroe's 3. They have Nussmeier 4.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers is 5. Drew Aller 6. That's the one that I think is going to somehow go there and test out and say, "Oh my God!"
Oh, they're going to fall in love with him.
And they're going to fall in love with him.
I
He's
think,
going to end up
but I
being
think that could be Nuss too.
Top 10. Yeah, but Nuss doesn't have the size. I mean, Nuss doesn't have the 6'5", 240-pound frame who can actually move around a little bit and has the big
He
right.
stinks.
Like, I understand it, but
You said the same thing about McCarthy, so I'm not listening.
But-
Yeah, he's hurt.
he's
Can't
got.
I don't have anything to do with ability.
He's got the
Harbaugh
ability
got
to do
everything
that.
out of him.
But you're going to see somebody else come up there, like Curtis Rourke's probably gonna flash up there at some point as the draft gets closer and closer, based off of what he does and how he tests out. Because I think he's a lot more athletic than people think he is.
If you go outside of that top 3, I think at that point it becomes a crapshoot for you as a quarterback because I could go first round, but I could also end up falling to the 4th. So I do think he comes back because
Well,
it's going to be hard.
That's the other part of the conversation. I don't know. Like, this is all, in my mind, contingent on what his father tells him and how, like, the draft process works, because he's still the quarterback's coach for the Eagles.
Right.
Like, he knows everything that you're going to get asked, everything they're going to test you about. Like, I've done this before. This is what you have to get ready for. But I'm saying, like, okay, so if you do come back, I think, and Nuss isn't going to announce until after the bowl game. Right, like he's playing in it.
Yeah,
so,
right.
That's
Is he playing it? He announced.
Yeah, he
that?
said he was going to play in the bowl game.
Yeah.
So if you're LSU and you're trying to play this portal game of quarterbacks, you're really behind the 8 ball. Of
You
what
are,
you
but
need.
and you have to be. And for him, that's another reason. That tells you a lot right there too, where he's leaning. Because if he knew he was a surefire and he
He'd
was
be
going
out the bowl
he
game.
wouldn't be playing in the bowl game.
Or he would
He's
play to
trying
put one more good tape out.
He's trying to use it as a data point that maybe it propels him a little bit.
Yeah.
To
people
keep
watch
his
the-
options open. Yeah, to keep his options open. Yeah.
I think what's also a positive for him as far as going into the draft and what scouts are gonna have mentioned and like to see is he performs well under pressure, right?
He does.
And I think what the other part of that is, hey, this motherfucker could go out and throw 3 picks, and he's still gonna come out there and he's still gonna make a big throw at some point in the game. He's not gonna allow that to affect him and not be a quarterback. So his downfall is, I think I can throw it anywhere and have. But then that also turns into but. After
Watch
that,
this.
he still can do it, right? So he doesn't short memory, right? Like he goes out there, and I think that people are talking about we like the ability for him. Yeah, we don't want him to throw interceptions, and we think we can fix that. And I think he's shown that if I just tranquilo a little bit, I don't have to throw as many interceptions. But knowing that if that were to happen, because it's going to happen in the NFL, he's confident enough to continue to go back and say, "Fuck it, I'm still going to keep trying to." Let this thing fly.
Yeah, and that.
But when I drop you in a bucket with 3 or 4 different quarterbacks, that's not the first one I'm pulling out.
Right.
Off of that reason. So it's another reason as to say I like this. I just don't know if this is why I'm gonna say he trumps this one in the first round.
No doubt.
Yeah, you just don't want to coach that out of him, especially like at LSU.
No, I don't think they are.
Well, you saw him take like a lot. What LSU did was bring the reins in a lot after the 3-game losing streak, where it felt like the turnovers were part of the problem. Like, he started taking a lot more checkdowns, but then you saw him kind of get his confidence a little bit back. Like, I don't think he ever lost it, but he wasn't taking those big throws down the field. Then you saw him get back to like, fuck it, I'm going to play my style of football.
I also think that was a little bit of the way the defense was playing him,
Yeah,
too.
like a little bit more measured and like take your check down, dude. We can get 8 every time, and that's what I wanted him to do.
Yeah,
because it made sense. Like it's an
that's
extension of the run game.
That's the next development,
But that's what you get when you don't have the experience.
And when you
of
come
it.
back,
so
yeah,
it's
right.
and the way the money has gone in the league, bro, they're paying a lot of money. They are not trying to pay you that money to hold a clipboard these days.
And they don't care that you're older. They like that. Like that's been the
he's
more,
older without experience.
Right, but the more success. Well, that's why when you come back, coming back for that 5th year is not going to make a difference on the way someone views you as far as it's not going to
especially
not
not
going to
at
dock
that
you.
not at that position either.
Like you go look at all the quarterbacks that came out that are older, right? Like the ones that are having success right now as
NFL
rookies,
quarterbacks, yeah.
right? You know, a lot of them are older.
Like
you see Bo Nix, 5-year guy, right? Like he went out there. Go ahead.
We're sitting here watching a year right now in the NFL where it's all but like pretty obvious that the Vikings are going to let a quarterback that's got him 12-2 right now walk because they drafted a rookie quarterback.
Right.
Like they're about to let him walk, a guy that was a former top 3 pick. So it's not like we're sitting here saying like, he kind of no, he was. Everybody thought he was that, and he's got him at 12-2, and they're about to let him walk because they draft. Like they're not trying to draft those guys to let him sit. So I do think like a lot of those teams want to see Nuss go play some more.
Another part of this conversation, which is interesting. What if Milroe comes back? Redshirt junior.
I think there's a chance he comes back too.
It's possible.
Because then you open up that quote-unquote third spot for Nuss. So if he declares, then he's like, damn, this place is...
And look, I don't know if Jalen Milroe will get drafted above him, but I know he's going to test. You're talking about testing. He's going to go and run. He's going to fly down the 40. He's going to throw the ball deep down the field.
He might bench press.
He's going to look like an absolute
stallion.
Monstar.
Be the most athletic one that's testing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like he's going to be like, oh, you talk about testing. He's going to be, oh my God, how do we not draft this guy? We can coach. Someone's going to look at us and say, I can coach this guy up. Like, no doubt.
I can teach him a curveball. I can promise you that. That fastball plays.
No doubt. I mean, that's like Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
And I think Anthony Richardson was maybe a more of a skilled passer, I think, when he came out. But
I think it's a big arm.
Yeah,
arm. I think he had a bigger arm too.
Yeah,
and it's just a freak show. I mean, like that's one that you're like, we're taking a risk.
Yeah,
1,000%. But what the good that I've seen is, ain't not a lot of people can do that.
No, right.
So if we can get him right.
So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. But look, a lot of times when they say the quarterback class isn't good, it does turn out to be good quarterback classes. Like, oh, this one's going to be elite. I think there's Joe's class was supposed to be elite. Joe's been elite. Who else that came out of that class?
Was that the
Trevor
same
Lawrence?
class?
I wouldn't call him elite. I know he got paid.
No, that's the same class as Herbert, right?
Oh, him and Herbert.
Yeah.
Yep, him and Herbert are the next two. But like,
Hurts.
Was Hurts in that same class?
Yeah.
Okay, so they had a pretty good class. But some of these guys are going to be better than.
I still also think too, like as years go by, that quarterback position becomes more and more coveted, which is kind of hard to think with when you look at how much they're paying him now. But I do think whether there's guys there or not that they think are that, I think by the time you get to draft, they try to find the guys that can do that because they do feel like if we just get this position, we're good.
And they want to kind of get late.
I do think. So I think it doesn't really matter if the class is that good or not. They find ways to get those guys in that spot.
The only reason, and then the reason I brought up the 2026 draft class and why I thought it was stronger, the first, 5 on the board, you haven't seen a couple of them play, but you've seen enough of them play.
Arch Manning.
Arch, Nico, Dante Moore, Aiden Childs, Jackson Arnold, you can take him off that list.
Yeah, but Dante Moore hasn't played.
Malachi, I know that's what I'm saying. You haven't
They
seen
got
some
one of
play.
them that's played as much as Nuss at this point.
Yeah, Malachi Nelson. And
Who's that?
Who that?
At Boise State.
Okay.
And Sam Levitt from Arizona State, I think he's going to rock it up draft boards.
Right, and I think that, yeah. I mean, he
Right.
played really well.
He was awesome.
So to your point, if you come back another year, so if you're sitting there in that 3, anybody who talks about it, you can sit here and say Nuss is from 3 to 6. What is he the next year though?
It
2,
depends
top
on,
2.
Yeah, it depends on how he plays.
Looking into it, if you're 6th in the country in passing this year,
let's just say, hypothetically, next year he comes back, and the team's better. Let's say the team is
offensive line they have to fix. I think he's looking at all of those things, like who you get out the portal.
And so let's just say he comes back and he throws it for the same amount of yards, which is 6th in the country, right? Like can't really improve much. Like had he thrown for 600 more yards, he'd have been number 1 in the country. So it wasn't like this huge gap between 1 and 6. And let's say he throws 30 touchdowns, right? Because he threw 20-something this year.
He's throwing 30.
Right. Oh,
let's go 40.
No, let me finish.
That's the fan in him talking.
Yeah, let's say he throws 30, because 30 touchdowns is a lot, right? He throws 30 touchdowns, and he cuts his interceptions in half. That means let's say he throws 6 interceptions. He's a top 2 quarterback, which means he doesn't have to do anything outrageously more than what he did this year other than just, hey, let me show you that I'm able to hone in my ability to just let this thing fly. So it's not like he has to improve as much as far as physically goes. He just needs to improve, just be out there. He got better. He had a couple whatever, but he got better.
Oh, I think he could. It's why it's contingent on, like you said, a little bit of the offensive
Jamar Chase
coordinator.
touchdown. Joe
I
Burrow.
had him. Yeah, I had him for a touchdown score.
Par for the course.
Uh,
I don't think, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think he has to come out and do.
When he plays well, they win like going
First
away.
off, I think the only thing he has to improve on this year to be, depending on what they have up front, to be regarded the same way he is as a quarterback this year, is cut down on the turnovers. Why? Because we just watched 2 years ago, what's his name? Will Levis get drafted high.
Right.
I think we can all say he's a better passer than Will Levis.
Yep.
So I think if he's able to cut down on interceptions, I think he still gets regarded super high as a quarterback.
Right.
And them knowing that, hey,
Agreed.
you don't have Will anymore. Hey, you don't have, or you have maybe Emory Jones still. Maybe you don't have the same O-line and they don't look at the O-line the same. Maybe they do acknowledge that this is possibly part of the reason why. Because you got to remember, too, the draft process is all based off of, I really would like to knock your price down. I know I want you at this spot, but I don't want to have to pay you that.
Right.
So, that's always going to be a part of it anyway. But I do think that if he's able to cut down on turnovers, I think that's pretty much the spot that they want to see.
If they
more opportunities for you to go out
It's
there and
going to
play,
be
cut that down.
You have to, I know he said the receivers are going to make a decision quickly. I think that those go hand in hand. Receivers are going to want to figure out if he's going to come back. They ain't coming to LSU if they don't know who's going to be throwing the football, right? Now, and we've talked about this a month ago. What's going to happen in the portal? Who do we need to get? How do we go get these guys? Need to know that it's a lot more enticing to come to LSU if you know Nussmeier's coming back.
Absolutely.
Than if he's not, right? And so
if some of these dominoes start to fall, maybe you can have a little bit of inkling of what Nussmeier is doing.
that's what I'm saying.
Because that's why I'd started like that, because LSU was behind the 8 ball of these transfer portal quarterbacks are going to go.
No, and look,
you're not going to be able to repair
it's a big,
the position.
Nussmeier's a big thing, right? Because if he doesn't come back, you're either going to go settle for somebody you don't really want as a starter, or you're going to have Colin Hurley start.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you, with as much as Nuss, I could be wrong about this too, but as much as he loves and respects Louisiana, LSU, and kind of what it is, I find it hard that he would be yeah, at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. But I think he understands, man, that'd be pretty shitty of me to put him in that spot too. So I do feel like there's some.
That's why you should
not transparency.
Yeah,
but
don't boo the man.
Not transparency, but I feel like there's some conversation,
Open dialogue
of how he's looking at this entire situation.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's not going to blindside him.
No.
They wouldn't have an idea about it, and they would probably be searching for quarterbacks in the portal. I find it hard that he's that type of guy, and that's the kind of situation that he's in, that he wouldn't just do that.
Here's the deal. If he doesn't leave, if he does come back, I know they want to go find another quarterback for depth, but they don't technically have to.
Mm-mm.
They have 3 guys on there, because Swan's coming back. He's a junior, so he's going to be the backup again, or on the roster.
Or if Nuss comes back, he might. I'm not going to play.
Yeah, but does he? He came here knowing he wasn't going to play.
Maybe he thought it was a
No,
I
no
don't.
shot.
But I don't understand what he was thinking either. You were a starter at Vanderbilt, and I guess you definitely, technically lost your job, and he knew that. But then to sign up again to be a backup on your senior year,
It was
do
a
you
junior
want to
year.
play? No, I'm talking about for next year.
Yeah, maybe he wants to go play somewhere.
I would
If he leaves.
imagine.
I would imagine he would have put his name in the portal.
Then you
already,
go
though.
find another AJ Swan.
Exactly.
TJ Finley's out there.
No.
Walker Howard's out there.
Walker ain't coming here.
UL, baby.
He's going to UL.
I said open up the keg. Bring it back.
It's gonna be interesting. I think Nuss is a big domino that if that falls, the offense is gonna look, obviously, the way it's structured is gonna look different.
I hope they keep Chris Hilton.
Me too. You have heard any rumors about that?
No rumblings, but
that's what we've been sitting here talking about this different skill set. That's one. You keep him in the cupboard, and he actually
stays healthy.
emerges, and he stays healthy. He's the X that you look that can do those kind of things. So he's one. So if they are looking for these kind of same type, maybe that tells you we think we got this one. We think this one will go. You needed to hit though.
Yes, you do.
You needed to hit
because I know people.
If he's back and healthy, Kyle Parker comes back and he's healthy, and you got Aaron Anderson, Xavier Thomas, and the 2 freshmen. You have a solid receiving group, but it's a bunch of ifs though.
Yeah, there's just so many. There's so much. The reason people are looking at wide receivers is like the talent that's out there. So many former 4 and 5 stars. Like, oh man, maybe here.
Right.
And that's why it's the easiest, it's the sexiest thing to look at. And so that's why I think people are like, oh, she has to get a wide receiver. Chris Hilton, I'm telling you, when he was healthy, he wasn't just running go balls. Like, he was playing a complete wide receiver position.
Well,
he was lining up in multiple spots.
We just haven't seen it long enough.
Right.
Because he hasn't been healthy.
But I was
enough.
privy to see it at practice. Like, they weren't just treated like, hey, Chris Hilton's in go ball.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like he's learning the position of how to be a wide receiver. I don't know where the jumping came from, but after the last game, maybe it's alleviated a little bit.
Well,
but
he still jumped.
He did jump, but he timed it right. As long as you time it right.
I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know either.
The crazy one to me, because we haven't seen him catch the ball. Actually, though, he did. Didn't he catch one over the middle? No, he only had 2 catches for 2 touchdowns. But you haven't even it was the
game before where he made a little move and he almost got loose over the middle of the field.
Yeah, and he stayed on his feet and he caught, well, John Boy pointed that one out, but I didn't know, like, it's the balls that are coming at him that he can't, like curl routes or comeback routes or hitch routes, and he's jumping to. I'm like, that is when I was like, man, he got a little bit of an issue right there.
Yeah,
a little bad habit that just kind of popped in there. I would imagine that has a lot to do with the inactivity.
Yeah,
excited.
So no, just inactivity.
That's not
excited.
It's just
excited to be out there.
I just, you're out there and you're healthier more, and you're actually doing these things more. I think a lot of that kind of smooths itself out, and it kind of goes away.
So hopefully he stays. We'll see.
And you got Jelani Watkins who can run.
He's still there. It's just, listen, you gotta.
And Harlan Berry's gonna catch 35 balls.
How? Where?
You would hope.
He's gonna line up a wide receiver.
You think?
You told me this about Aaron Anderson. I was right for that too.
Where? Okay, but Aaron's still here.
No, I'm just saying they're gonna find a spot for him to be able to play. I'm interested to see if they put Jawan Johnson on defense again.
That's a mystery.
Lloyd thinks like every freshman that's going to come in is just.
Listen, I know this guy's the number 1 running back in the country, and he's very talented and very skilled, and I think he is going to get some playing time.
I'm not saying he's not getting any, but 35 balls is a lot.
That's a lot of catches.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mark it. No 1,000 yards for Mason Taylor.
Out of the backfield?
I think he's going to line up in like the slot a lot too.
What slot? So you're saying he's like, who's he jumping on the depth chart?
You put him in the backfield and motion him out.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. You're kind of matching up against a linebacker.
So my point is, I hear you, but my point is what I'm saying 35 is a lot is are you saying that it's a 1A, 1B, and it's him and Caden in the backfield kind of going back and forth? He's getting that much playing time?
I think they could both be on the field at the same time. Yeah.
Right. So you're saying he's going to be the number 2 back?
No, you can. That's not. Yeah.
You're saying
how often do you see that to where that plays out?
Number 2 back is what you project.
Well, it depends on what we do with where Caleb Jackson ends up.
Yeah, but you're also who else is coming back too?
Yeah, I don't know. Xavier put a very cryptic.
How about your favorite player on the team?
We getting that extra year.
We got are we getting him or is he leaving?
Who?
John Emery.
Oh, he's working out.
But is he?
So that's my point.
Has he gotten the year?
Yeah,
I think so. They're working on it.
Yeah, so they haven't.
He wouldn't be working out if he was.
So I'm going to ask you again. How is he getting on the field to catch 35 balls?
John Emery is like a espresso martini. You
can't
have
coach, but it still plays.
Yeah,
he's going to play.
We don't know. Is he going to come back or not? I don't know if that's a real thing.
I think he can get a medical hardship.
He's trying, but he hasn't gotten it yet.
I don't think the rules are really the rules anymore.
But
I just saw somebody that's playing for their 7th year that was in the same recruiting class as.
Sir, it's a yes or no question.
Yes, he's coming back.
Do you know that for a fact? Has it been approved? So it has not been approved yet.
I just don't know why he'd be working out like this. I guess for the draft.
Yeah, he's trying to do something else. So he's working out just in case he can come back. But if he can't come back, at least he's working out. Maybe I can go get a free agent job somewhere and show that, hey, I can be on a practice squad.
Yeah.
He's also at the firing squad the other day. I didn't like that too much. But we'll see. Everybody can have a hobby. Shoot a gun with a silencer.
Okay. Well,
35 balls is a lot. I'm just going to tell you right now.
It.
How many did Caden catch this year?
I was actually going to look it up.
I'm very interested to know that. I want to know how many he caught this year. I can't wait to hear this number.
Caught 27.
27.
How much did he play this year?
A lot.
Well, he didn't play the first. Couple games.
So you're telling me another freshman that's
Speaking of the first couple games, do you think LSU should try to get out this Clemson series, the home and home? They have Clemson away, Clemson at home.
So first off, time out. That's
and
what we were talking about
UNLV.
earlier. When Bama came by talking about
UNLV next year too.
No, the third year. That's the home opener is UNLV in Vegas.
Why don't we get them at home? Why don't we get them?
Why do we keep doing that?
Why don't we
I don't
keep
get
doing
that.
the
I really
neutral
don't
site
understand
bullshit? That is basically a home game for them.
I don't understand that. That was my interpretation of what Bama was talking about. Not so much what happened this year and where their schedule was this year, but somebody did spit out. I don't remember who it was and what the teams were and how far in the future this goes. But they have some huge marquee games, and it's like 4 or 5 of them in the future. I think they're saying, well, why the hell are we gonna play them if we can possibly lose them and then also possibly lose 2 or 3 in our conference? So we're gonna just go ahead and get rid of them and just play some cupcake ass teams, get them dubs because all you worried about is dubs. And we'll go that way. I think that's what they were saying. But this goes to the same thing. LSU's in a different situation right now. If they're sitting there with 3 losses, different conversation to have. I think they're in the conversation. I don't think they get in, obviously. But I think they're in the conversation. They're not even in the conversation because of the loss in Vegas to USC to start the year. Different.
And which is basically closer to home game for them, which UNLV, it is a home game.
Yeah.
In Vegas.
That is a home game.
So I don't get that. No, do they cancel the game? I don't know. I don't think they do.
Clemson don't want to cancel it. That'd be a huge win for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the
Is at home?
playoff.
Of course, they get to start it off at home. Why don't we get to? We don't.
Well,
we
next
haven't had
year, the next year you do.
We haven't had a game at home. A big
2019 you played Texas.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 2020. We were supposed to have Texas here, but we didn't get that one.
Nope.
So
thank God.
Yeah. Oh shit. I don't know. I mean, do I think they need to cancel it? Yeah, based off whatever you've seen, like that'd be nice to get out of it. It'd be better for us because we've lost 5 straight openers, and
5.
They obviously reward records and whatever, but I don't think they're going to. I don't know. We'll see. But all right, let's get to the Seggies. Mistake of the day brought to you by our friends at Doe's Eat Place. What you got, Lloyd?
Speaking of the Alabama fodder going around, Greg Byrne put out a tweet talking about the selection committee and everything that was going on around it. And
he's getting hammered on that one.
He got community noted by Twitter. So, Greg Byrne, disappointed with the outcome and felt we were one of the 12 best teams in the country. We had an extremely challenging schedule, and we recognized there were 2 games in particular that we did not perform as well as we should have, ... whatever the rest of it says. All of Alabama's losses came in conference play. Alabama's non-conference schedule was one of the easiest in the country, playing 2 Group of 5 schools, WKU and USF, 1 FCS school, and 1 Power 4 team, the 5-7 Wisconsin Badgers, who finished 12th in the Big Ten. So it didn't have anything to do with your non-con schedule, brother.
Right. And Jared's point is he thinks that he was mentioning that because of just the way it played out, and he was talking about the future.
No, I don't think he was mentioning that.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about.
I'm talking about like officials and like people.
Oh no! I was talking about when we talked about. I was talking about Greg Byrne's statement. That's Alabama's AD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, that doesn't play.
That's not a good look.
He's getting hammered on that one.
Yeah,
he should. Because that conversation does not.
Don't get dog walked by Oklahoma.
Yeah, that doesn't play. That's tough. Mistake. Shouldn't do it. Listen.
Mistake.
SEC has a lot of benefits. That was not the argument. Like you use a different argument. Our conference schedule is really hard, so it doesn't matter about the non-conference schedule. We have the hardest conference. Would probably have been a more argument than what he just said. That's not good. All right.
That sounds like a couple whiskeys in. I'm gonna fire off. This is what I think.
He told his wife, "I'm about to don't do it, sweetheart. Don't do it. I did it.
Readers are rolling.
I already did it. Okay. Curtain call brought to you by our friends at Perkins and McKenzie.
I'll lead us off. Curtain call to the transfer portal. While you may think college football transfer portal, no. We now have 7-on-7, 12 and under kids hopping in the portal.
What?
Bro, what?
No way.
4'4", 49 pounds, running back, cornerback, safety, 5-star. I would like to take the opportunity to thank the West Orlando Jags organization for allowing me to play on their 6U under tackle football team. during the 2024 season. It's been a great experience, and I truly appreciate all the support and opportunities.
Offers.
With that being said, I've decided to enter the transfer portal with 1 year of eligibility remaining to play 6U for the 2025 season. Thank you again for everything. I look forward to what the future holds. Where will I go?
Man, unbelievable. He's so smart as a 6-year-old. I can't believe he wrote all that.
Somebody-
5-star. He's a
5-star.
5-star.
4'4", 49 pounds.
Hey, them unis is smacking. Our
Yeah.
unis ain't look nothing like that when I was 6.
Give me that mesh.
Give me that mesh and that big white helmet.
Can I say something funny before I get to my curtain call?
Of course.
I love Twitter's just fun. Oh, man. It really plays really great. Tweet is, Popeye's employees would have helped him get rid of the gun.
Speaking of how I ain't been there in a minute.
I haven't either.
It's been a long time since I've been there. That's pretty funny.
That's pretty funny.
I
He
ain't been
gets
in a
caught at
while.
McDonald's. Popeyes would have helped you hide
Yeah,
the gun.
let's
dog.
throw that in the fryer.
That's crazy. That's crazy work. I'm going to give my curtain call to college football. They gave us what we thought we were going to get. Actually, gave us a little more. Right? The back end of that, who's going to get in, who's not going to get in, got kind of nutty. Probably nuttier than what they thought it was going to get. So, year one, obviously there's fixes. It ain't perfect. It ain't going to be perfect because there's always there's a little bit of a judgment game that has to happen with it. But a lot of people are more invested at this point than ever before.
This has been one of the most fun seasons
No
we've
doubt.
had in college football.
No doubt. And it's still going to be fun because you get the playoff and it's going to be fun. And I'm glad you said that because my curtain call is to SMU. Not because they made the playoff. But because if you don't know the history of SMU and what they had to endure and they went through the death. The only school, I think, in the history of college football to go through the death penalty, in 1989, I believe it was. SMU used to be a football power. Obviously, they were doing some illegal things.
Pony Express.
They got the death penalty. And that included
Merrill Hodge.
That included 12 years of no revenue sharing. That included a whole bunch of like scholarships, bans. Basically, it's almost impossible to get yourself back into irrelevancy. And they kept
Not with that location.
And then all of a sudden, the NIL pops up. Like, oh, wait a minute, we can do this legally now. We've been doing this earlier. We can do this legally now. We're in one of the richest,
Probably the
zip codes
richest
in the country. We're back, baby. And so they go and bring all those rich people that came back. Hey, the people who are getting all the money on the table. No, we can do this legally now.
And we can do a lot more.
We can do a lot more. Whatever. There's no limit, actually. Well, let's go do this and let's go and look. Oh, and we're in the Big 12, and so now it's we have every opportunity to make it. Let's do it. So they go and bring this huge collective, and now they are winning games. And part of this curtain call is to their starting quarterback. If you didn't know before the year, he was not their starting quarterback. He came in as the number 2 guy. The guy who was their starting quarterback, who was supposed to be good, did not cut it. And this guy comes in and balls out and takes SMU to the playoff into the conference championship game in their first year in the ACC, Big 12? ACC.
Yeah.
ACC. So shout out to SMU because that's a pretty cool deal. Like that's almost impossible thing to overcome, and they got themselves back into it.
If you want to know how rich SMU is,
Tell them.
they paid $200 million to get into the ACC and forfeited 9 years of revenue sharing from the media. And they were still like, we'll take that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to put on notice for how much money SMU has. And they're
No
going to
doubt.
be
We've been
a
saying that.
player in this thing.
I definitely named them like
Oh,
about
yeah, we
a
all,
year
but no,
ago.
Yeah, we all
people
knew it.
laugh at me when I bring them up. And
I
I'm
named
like,
them like a year ago. I'm like, bro, there is so much money in Highland Park, Texas.
And
Like
it's
you don't
it's a
understand.
destination place. You want to go be there.
You don't
that's cocaine in
understand
the
the money.
state.
Jesus Christ. That's not. I don't think that's what people are talking about.
And I'll put it to you like this. I get it, bro. They don't have a 100,000 stadium capacity stadium over there.
yet.
But just go drive around Highland Park. Go drive around that part of Dallas and tell me, yeah, I don't think I like this area. I don't want to be here. You won't say it. I promise you won't say it.
You can't find a leaf on the ground that ain't supposed to be there.
I promise you won't say it. So
So their
yeah.
collective is called the Boulevard Collective. Feels just like an
Park
expensive
Place.
collective.
Sounds, yeah, Highland Park.
Industry-leading NIL collective that supports, protects, and promotes SMU student athletes. I'd imagine they. Speaking of SMU, LSU basketball plays SMU this weekend. I'm sure some of that money's going to some basketball players too.
And I don't know the exact one. It's one or the other, but I do think that in the United States, Dallas has the most per capita either millionaires or billionaires. So
Either way, that plays.
it plays because you got to think about it. Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah, but that don't mean they all went to SMU. No, they didn't. But guess what? The guy that got in on the deal with Bryce Underwood, he didn't go to SMU. I mean, he didn't go to Michigan. He's a billionaire. His wife did. So, you know,
And she's
if
not,
you want to
and
be
she's
in,
not poor either.
if you want to be in that ring, it would probably do you some good to donate to that school. So I'm just saying, just throw it out there.
Bought their way in, $200 million easy up front. Gotcha. And we don't need your money.
With that being said, you don't necessarily have to be a millionaire or a billionaire to donate to the collective. Right?
Lloyd donates to
There's
the
a big
collective.
push right now from LSU and from all those that are close to the program.
Our own Jack.
Our guy who runs our Twitter. Doing a we got a lot of compliments on that. I've been getting text messages, hey, great job. I'm like, I had to give credit to Jack. I was like, he's doing a great job. Great job, Jack, if you're listening to us. Pass that test so we can get to the next level of this.
Figure it out.
I think he did it. I think he passed it. I think he's passed it. He told me. He said it right there.
Mm-hmm.
But if
he's got time to make graphics.
LSU's got a lot of fans, right? Like 50,000 fans. They have way more than that. Obviously, they sell out 100,000 every game, right? If 50,000 fans donate $10 a month, that equals $6 million a year in the collective. It's a lot, significant. If 100,000 fans donate $10 a month, that's equal to $12 million a year that goes towards the collective. You know, if you feel inclined to help and say, listen, $10 is a couple coffees a week. Go ahead, donate, help. Any little bit, any little bit of contribution from you goes a long way. So
if you got Netflix, this is what I said. I brought this graphic up last week. If you can afford Netflix, would you rather watch that in December or would you rather watch LSU in the playoff?
It's a good point. So let's leave it at that. All right. We appreciate you for tuning in on this beautiful Monday. This beautiful rainy Monday.
We need that guy that donates to that OnlyFans girl to hop in.
Yeah, or we need Steve Cohen to become a fan.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. Just give us $1 billion. Actually, just donate $1 billion. You don't have to do anything anymore. You don't have to be a fan anymore. Just give us $1 billion, and
we'll love you for
we'll
life.
Be okay. I think we'll be good forever if we do that.
This should cover us.
Actually, not even $1 billion.
This should
give
cover
us $100 million.
This should cover us for the next 20 years.
Yeah,
100 mil. 100 mil will be all right.
Cover our salary.
It needs to happen before Elijah Haven reclassifies and LSU's in the same pickle.
Is he going to reclassify?
I would imagine.
But he has 2 years to reclassify, right? Like he was a sophomore this year, so he's got 1 more year before he can reclassify. He can't reclassify 2 years. That'd be wild.
Jakeem Stewart.
Yeah, not 2 years, just 1 year.
Not play, and then
not play. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This place will go nuclear.
No doubt. If you can't watch us, but you like listening to us, we're anywhere you get your pods. We'll be back live in studio on Wednesday from 6 to 7-ish. It's gonna be a quicker show. That's how we'll explain after. But we'll be live in studio. Ask Mikey and Mitch. We'll promote it this time, obviously, so we can get some questions. Talk about all those types of things. Enjoy watching the rest of the Monday Night Football with Joe Burrow on there. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all.
Playoff implications.
I mean, they gotta win every game. Every single game they play from here on out, they gotta win.
Get your futures in now.
Get them in now. We'll see what happens. All right. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Peace.